Yo, what's up everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Naus cEDH podcast, Financial Literacy in cEDH. My name is Kian, better known as Varlas, and today I will be your host. Joining me as always is my co-host Adam, better known as Poppyphobia.
What's up everybody?
Kevin, better known as Tashu.
Howdy.
And Sam, better known as Knight.
I saw it.
Today's topic is all about financial literacy in regards to cEDH. How we spend our money on the format and how we stop ourselves from going broke in this expensive-ass hobby. Since the release of Double Masters, we thought that this would be a good topic to bring up, since card prices and financial complications are on everybody's mind. Before we get started today, I think, Adam, you have a few triggers to resolve in our upkeep.
Yeah, so first of all, we're going to shout out all of our high-tier patrons. Thank you to Usable Object, Cold Ramen, and Geo Justin, respectively. It's thanks to people like you that we can continue to do this show. If you would like to become a patron and get the special perks that it provides, you can find our Patreon link in the description below. In upcoming tournaments, I, Adam, will be attending Punt City August 27th and 29th in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Along with that, some of the Naus team will also be attending Novemberoktoberfest, November 18th and 20th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So grab your tickets if you want a chance to compete with us IRL and see how bad we really are. In other news, we are starting to collaborate with other MTG content channels. You can catch me, Poppyphobia, on Mental Misplays Stream Tuesday, July 19th. Or you can see me every weekend getting my ass kicked in the MLC. You can follow us on Twitter to get more news and updates on our future collaborations. The link will be in the description for that. Speaking of content, we are now available on all major podcast platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We are also working on bringing some collaborations to the podcast in the future, along with some gameplay content soon. If any content creators are listening and would like to join us for an episode in the future, please reach out to us through Twitter or Discord. And finally, before we start on this episode's main topic, we have a little disclosure beforehand. We are not financial advisors, and everything we discuss in this episode should be taken with a grain of salt. We are no one special, and this is just the thoughts and opinions of 4 heavily enfranchised cEDH players. So please, no comments on how our advice lost you a bunch of money, because we blame each other enough for that already. So that being said, let's get started. Financial literacy is an important discussion in not only cEDH, but in all MTG formats. This hobby is expensive, especially when you're dealing with reserve list staples, pieces of power, and cards that just generally cost too damn much. So how do we balance all of these high costs, and how do we manage to not be homeless with nothing but a stack of bulk magic cards to use as kindling to keep us warm? Hopefully in today's episode you'll get some answers to those questions and even more. So, to get us started, I think I'm going to pass it over to one of our more financially responsible team members, Kevin. So, Kevin, what would you like to talk about first?
Keck.
I think financial responsibility is a little dubious there. Well, I guess my first topic or question tonight is, how does the secondary market affect the game itself? Or, I guess rephrasing it, does the secondary market affect the game? You know, as competitive EDH goes, do prices sway you away from certain decks? Do you believe that a $7,000 time twister, if you recently run into one, are you more likely to play it even though you have a 2-hour argument about how it's a bad card? I think all of us can come together and say, oh no, definitely not. Like, I mean, yes, they're expensive, it sucks, but you just proxy. But I think that there's a problem with that, and that I feel like if we took a poll, the majority of people would actually say, like, oh, I'll proxy, but I always want to own the cards. Everyone always wants to own the cards, right?
Yeah.
So I think some decks genuinely are just off the table for some people. Like, some people say, like, I can't own a time twister. The deck can't run without a time twister. I'm not going to play the deck. It's just, I won't even try it, right? And so I know Sam may have a different opinion on this, but I think that the secondary market does 100% affect the game in the choices that people make because they know that some barriers are unsurmountable. I think that the prices that we have to deal with is an unfortunate reality of what we're working with. And, yes, there's quick, easy answers. Just go buy a Toshiba, right? Like, that's $30. Go to friggin' Target and you're done. But there's a lack of satisfaction with that, right? And I was curious, what are your guys' opinions? Because I'd like to hear, everyone else's point on the topic.
Well, he called you out, Sam.
Yeah.
I want you to go first.
Yeah, I guess he get it in.
Go at him.
I definitely agree that the secondary market affects the game in the sense that, like, the secondary market is kind of the key holder, the gatekeeper for certain strategies, certain cards that are pretty much auto-includes in certain lists.
It's almost like we had, like, a whole episode.
Almost,
Gatekeeping.
yeah.
Who has the keys, Sam?
You know what?
TCG
You know what?
player.
Maybe I got the keys, Kean. Maybe I have all the cards. All right. I'm actually Rudy in real life. So I
I'm the real
actually
Will.
think that the game affects the secondary market more than the secondary market affects the game. So and I say that because I mean if you look at content creators or people that are playing in GPs or playing at Marchesa in our format, the lists that they're playing are going to have a direct and almost immediate effect on the secondary market pricing for cards. All the time. I mean, it happens all the time. It's continued.
Which in turn becomes a toxic relationship where you're like, oh, this card's too expensive, I can't play it. And so then people might not play the card, and then it goes down in price, and then someone else plays the deck, and then it spikes up in price, and you get this awful combination of the two.
100%, I think both things happen, but I think that the greater effect is that the game and the gameplay that happens affects the secondary market more than the market affects the game. Because, like, especially in cEDH, people are going to, most stores, most people, like, they want to play your brain, not your wallet. If you don't have a time twister, proxy it. You know, most people don't care. Now, if you're in a sanctioned event, you're at Command Fest, or you're playing F&M for prize support, that might be a little bit different of a story. Some stores are cool with it. I know ours is, which is pretty nice. But I generally think that it's actually the reverse of what you suggested. But that's okay. Both exist, definitely.
Well, yeah, I think in like regards to like both exist. I think like obviously the game affects the secondary market, right? If a card's playable, it's going to affect the price, right?
Yep.
But the problem is that there's not. I mean, when you think about it, when a cent is printed, right? Like hundreds of thousands of copies of a card are printed. There's not hundreds of thousands of people playing that same deck, right? There's market manipulation that exists, and if a card's playable, it gets targeted, and people buy out those cards and try to manipulate the price or hold on to them to get a sick deal and make a bunch of money off of these cards. So like the game definitely has its like say on what a card is worth, but so do all these other people that have their hands in that unsanctioned, world of finances. And I think like that's kind of like one topic that we're going to talk about today is like the secondary market kind of does price people out of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
100%.
Yeah, especially for our format, like there's like
Legacy staples,
Fucking
like
vintage
staples
staples.
in our
like
format.
dual
It's-
lands, mana crypt. You can play all the busted cards, but how much are the busted cards worth?
Yeah.
Like pretty expensive.
And to gain you, oftentimes, to only gain you marginal like win rate
Advantages.
increases per card
Yeah.
for the amount of money you have to invest. Some of it's staggering. Like Time Twister, I personally think Time Twister, unless you're playing Opus Thief, it's a bad card in my opinion. You're getting rid of graveyards that you can utilize, and in cEDH, those are often important strategies.
Boomer
That's
magic.
that's its own topic in itself, right? Like,
For sure,
how we
yeah.
evaluate
Yeah,
like,
let's
cards,
stop talking
the
about
cards
Time
quality.
Twister.
But something that we can attest to is something like a Mox Diamond, right? A Mox Diamond is a piece of fast mana, fast ramp, but it's $650 to get your hands on one, right? How much does it actually increase your win percentage to have a Mox Diamond? Not a whole lot, right? Like fast mana helps, but like, do you really need it? Not necessarily. But how do you balance that?
Like, are you going to miss it? Yeah, 100%.
I mean,
Unless
of
you only
course.
got one land in your hand, then like, what's the point of even having that
Mox Diamond
Yeah.
better than on most lands.
But
Facts.
it does it does like have its implications, right? And when you're spending money on the game, you have to be aware of all that stuff. And things like how many people are out there that own a Mox Diamond that don't play it in a deck? They own it because they're speccing, right? Or they own it because they're trying to make money on a card.
Or they're collectors.
Yeah, or they're collectors. And it's like how do you combat that when you're trying to keep a format alive? You know what I mean? Like that's a really tough kind of conversation to have. And I think that's what Kevin's kind of alluding to here with like how does the secondary market affect the game? I think it affects it in a huge way, dude. A deck is $12,000. That's not just because these cards are good. It's because there's a whole market dedicated to how much these things cost. You know what I mean? And obviously like foils and everything else manipulate price and can change depending on the cards that you're playing. But like some of the best cards in the format are $100 plus, and that's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Kian, so going kind of back to the topic, do you have any opinion on how the secondary market affects the game? Or we pretty much covered all for you?
I've got 2 points if Kian doesn't
I pretty much agree with Kevin on this. I think the secondary market definitely affects how the game is played itself. Because I know we covered our last episode was gatekeeping, and I think we kind of touched on that a little bit. But this is a bit more in depth of like financial, why like cards are set at certain prices, which we will be covering later in the episode. Like having a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like buy-in rate. Like you could be playing like a 3-color deck, but you still need to be playing like the fast mana you alluded to, and then like dual lands. And with a player just getting in the format and they want to be playing like the best deck, they're like, okay, I can't really buy these cards, and they're not going to go down because investors and like it.
Here's a good example, right? When a new player joins the format, what are most likely the decks that they're going to play?
The best ones.
No, monocolor decks,
Oh,
because
yeah,
it's
that's
what
fair.
they can
Or
afford.
dual color.
Or dual color. Low color decks are what people play when they first get into the format because it's what's available to them. Because a lot of stores that don't have proxy rules or don't allow them, you got to play what you can afford.
You make concessions.
Right? So yeah, so that's why you see like some of the most popular decks for beginners, and we talked about this in our very first podcast episode, are decks like Godo, or decks like, you see a lot of Niv Mizzet, a 2-color deck, right?
Yeah, Brostorm.
Brostorm, green deck, yeah.
Yeah,
All
a
these
lot of decks that don't have like a buy-in rate.
Yeah, and they might have some cards that are ridiculously expensive, like a Cradle, but they just say, well, I can skip the Cradle for now, and I'll just play with what I can afford, right?
Yep.
Or there's alternatives to Cradle, like that enchantment land that
Growing
flips,
Rights
and
of
then
Illidan.
Growing
yeah,
Lights.
and like you can just play that in its place. It's not as good, but it'll work, right? There's alternatives to that kind of stuff, but people will specifically not play certain decks or certain cards because of its price, and I think that's an inclination, right? Is that the right word? I hope so.
Yep.
That the secondary
outward.
market,
It's outward.
yeah, the secondary market is affecting the game. Right?
100%. So like, you know how many fetches you play in a monocolored deck? 4. 2-color deck? 7. 3-color? 9. That sucks. You only cannot buy one fetch. That's not even a reserve list card, and them bastards are so expensive.
$30 to $40 a piece, you know.
I mean, fuck
And that's
me.
if they were reprinted recently,
Yeah,
which
and
we will
20
also touch base on today.
In 2017, Scalding Tarns were
Oh
like
my-
$100.
$100, dude. I
bro.
remember that. You know how many
Shit
Scalding
sucked.
Tarns I sold? I didn't have Scalding Tarns for like 2 years.
Yeah, so Sam, you brought up an interesting word, and that word is sanctioned. And I think this is the biggest impact that the secondary market has on cEDH, and I think it is the donkey in the road holding us back. EDH is super
I've never
heard that.
a stubborn mule, a donkey sitting on the
Okay,
road.
stubborn
Okay,
mule. There we go.
Whatever. They're the same goddamn animal.
He went free
So,
for
like-
Naus.
Commander is, I believe, the most popular format. I don't know if Standard has swung it back, but
I think Commander is.
It's
yeah,
Commander,
EDH.
and I think Pioneer is going to come up on its tail
soon,
yeah.
yes. But as of now, EDH is like the premier format. You know what WotC would love to do? Run tournaments. You know what they're not likely to do? Run tournaments. Because you can't say, you know how many vintage tournaments get run? 0.
Unless they're on Moto.
Well, yeah, but that's also a fake game.
Most vintage games are played on yachts and stuff.
Yeah, like we can't realistically expect a true sanctioned WotC competitive EDH because of some of these prices and the reserve list making them legitimately unviable to actually really chase. You can't expect 700 people to show up all with a full set of duels and diamonds and everything. It's just not going to happen. So I think that's the biggest point where it holds us back.
Not until WotC releases cEDH Masters
Dude,
that
fuck
reprints all the reserve list cards.
Send it.
Yeah, that's a spec right there.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, I think that we kind of like. There's a general consensus that I think that the secondary market does affect the game.
Yeah.
I think how you define how it affects it can be a little muddled. You know.
Yeah, of course.
And then you have some like a closing point you want to add to this?
Yeah,
before we move
basically
on?
the last one is that I think certain cards, like we talked about, Time Twister's a big one, Mox Diamond's a big one, right? Like, but those get played in like a lot of decks.
Yep.
I own a Bazaar and a Chains of Mephistopheles. You know how many fucking decks run those? Like 2.
2.
So like it sucks because if you want to play a specific deck and you have to hit these big heavy hitters, right? Are you really going to spend $5,000 on a Bazaar that gets played in one deck? Or are you going to buy a full play set of duels and play Kenrith and everything else, right?
It gets
I
played
thought
in
you guys
2.
said Kevin was the more financially responsible.
Oh, that
one.
was
He's talking about a $5,000 card he has plays
Hey,
in
whoa,
one
whoa, whoa.
deck.
I haggled someplace in Arkansas in 2016 for $400.
Oh,
Financial genius.
That statement was a cap.
So, moving on from that topic, Sam, what would you like to discuss regarding financial literacy and cEDH?
So I mean, I like talking about a lot about the topic that Kevin just brought up, but I would like to move on to talking about how does one evaluate singles, say new singles in a new set, or singles that become better because of other cards in a new set, and what do I look for in the market to determine when to buy a card. So I have some cards on my watch list that I call, and I monitor and snipe good deals in MTG, and I would like to share a little bit about that. And I would like to maybe clue you guys in on how you as a listener can do that yourself. So when I'm looking at singles, let's say a new single, something that's
Are you on Farmers Only or
what?
Yeah, like, are you on
like
Tinder, or how do you look for
or
singles?
Grinder? Like, what are you on?
I'm gonna
buddy?
kill all of you. All right.
Do
Can
it.
I just get through my stuff, man?
I was genuinely curious
Yeah, I was
about
just
where you're
worried.
finding your single.
I am. Shh. Okay. All right. So when I'm
He's married,
evaluating,
Kian. He can't give that information live
when
on
I'm
the
evaluating
She
a
don't listen
single,
to this.
when I'm evaluating a single that comes onto the market, before I decide if I'm going to swipe right or left,
podcast. Yeah.
I like to take a look at, all right, what formats is this card going to impact? So if you have, what brings value to a card for me is the ability to like 1-for-1. Let's say the card is an answer. What does it cost for a 1-for-1? Can I milk a 1-for-2 out of it or an 0-for-2? For example, one of the cards I looked at and spec'd on back in the day was Veil of Summer. And that card,
that.
yeah, that card, and no one knew it at first, that card is absolutely insane. There's a spider trying to land on me right now. Adam, what kind of show are we putting on here?
I wasn't gonna
Trying
say
to kill
anything.
me? Yeah, all right. So I'm looking at Veil of Summer, and I see that it is 1 green to stop a Force of Will in Legacy.
Yep.
And a Force of Will is going to be 2 cards from your opponent's hand, and it's your Veil of Summer is also a cantrip.
It draws
So like that right there is just money, right?
Yeah.
Like that card should be expensive, but they were $1, right? So I bought like 1 billion of them. I'm not saying do this, just look at cards and
Amazing.
think about the value that they bring to an actual game. If it's very, very efficient, it's probably a good card, and definitely something that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I remember Veil. I mean, I was like gone out of Magic for that very short period that Veil came out. I came back and I was like, what? They power crept Autumn
Green
Veil?
spells.
What happened? Autumn Veil got
It turns out it's good in like every format ever,
Every
basically.
deck. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Even especially in cEDH, it's one of the best cards in green, in my opinion.
Yeah, they power crept Autumn's Veil. That's funny.
I guess, dude, Frog used to run Autumn's Veil, and I was like, ooh, Spacey Tech. And then Veil of Summer came out, and I was like, bro, can I get Winter's Veil next?
Yeah, like what other strategies do you utilize though? Like not just like playability, right? But like do you like look at when something gets like reprinted or when something's pushed in a set, or if like
Market trends.
not market trends, or even if like do you try to assume what's gonna be reprinted in a set, right? So like an example.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I do that, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into when I'm talking about like sniping good deals in Magic. So if you look at like market trends for staples, I've got like this list of cards that I've been checking because of Double Masters coming out. Some of those cards are like the pretty neutral cards that you're going to see in virtually every cEDH, like Mana Crypt, Ancient Tomb, Mana Vault, Lotus Petal, Tutors, etc., etc. So when you watch what happens to the price of those cards, they always creep up over time because there's always a demand for the cards, right? People are building new
They're played in
decks.
everything.
Exactly. They're played in every single list. And then you reach the point in time where Wizards is going to print a Masters set, which is a great opportunity for those cards to see a reprint. When they do not, you have some specking. Adam, quit being weird. You have some specking that you can do because you know the card's going to go up. Like there's almost no scenario where that card that was already creeping up stops going up when it doesn't get reprinted. So that's another thing that I kind of look at and watch when I'm trying to snipe good deals. So I have an example here, Ancient Tomb. Around June 6th, so right after the leaks came out for Double Masters, and right before spoilers started, the card was like $65, $66 market price on TCG. That was June 6th, so right before spoiler season. Then the card stopped being sold completely. People stopped buying it. People were still posting them, but because no one was buying them, waiting to see what was going to happen with the reprints, the card value dropped in a week, like $10. And then when the spoilers were finished, around, like, that was the 16th, right? I think?
Like,
Or no, that was when it started. That's when it officially
Yeah.
started. So once the spoilers were done, the card instantly started creeping back up. So it dropped like $10-$12 and then kept creeping back up. And that's a great opportunity to snag that card. Is right at the bottom there. And then if you're looking at picking up that card and it does get reprinted, well, then you just wait until things bottom out a couple weeks after the set comes out. People are going to be open, stores are going to open packs and post them online. And that's another great opportunity to take advantage of.
I like when we kind of go through like some of our conspiracies that we have whenever we talk about certain topics. And regarding this one, a conspiracy that I have is that I think that someone out there, like a lot of people out there, know a lot more about new sets before they come out than we ever will. Something that I will refer to about this is something like a card that I was keeping an eye on was Mana Crypt. Because in Master sets, these cards get printed a lot, right? And they'll get printed in like Ultimate Masters and then Double Masters 1, and then you'll see it in Modern Masters, right? Like some of these cards will get printed a lot. And with this set, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to reprint Mana Crypt because it's at one of its all-time highs. It was at $175 a month before the set came out. And I was watching it, and there's no spoilers for the set. Nothing's come out yet, and this card is still creeping up every single day, where cards like Dockside are going down every single day as we get closer to this set. And I'm looking at it going like, why would this card keep getting more expensive when they're about to announce a Master set and about to go through spoilers, but other cards are getting lower? And I'm looking at this and I'm trying to think like, when do I want to pick up this card? And you know what I said to myself? I go, if this card isn't dropping right now, there's a reason for it. And I went and I got a Judge promo Mana Crypt because I was like, I better buy it now before this card gets more expensive. And then look what happens. They reprint Double Masters and there's no Mana Crypt. And now the card's up to 180 and climbing to 200 again. So I was like, I'm going to pick it up now even though it's high, because something out there knows that it's not getting printed again.
It'll get higher.
Because it's just going to keep going higher.
Yeah.
So like, that's my conspiracy is I think that a lot of these sellers out here, especially like guys that are doing big online sales, must know something about these sets because the card prices. I mean, Dockside Extortionist was down to $40 before they did any spoilers for Double Masters. Yeah. Like it was at almost $80 at one point. At 76. Yeah, so like somebody knows that these cards are moving and they're well aware of that.
Yeah, but you can also speculate on that. So when you think about like the number of times a card is printed, that heavily weighs on what's going to happen with the price when it does and when it doesn't get reprinted.
Yeah, but that's kind of like an example too of like how I do something similar to what you do, right? Where I watch a specific card and I really like collecting Judge promos because to me, a Judge promo is almost equivalent to like a reserve list card because it's special art for a special occasion and they don't normally reprint it. And if they do reprint it, they print it with a different art, right? Like if you look at like the Vampiric Tutor Judge promos, there's two of them, right? One of them is an old border, one of them is a new border, and they're completely different. So I like to really buy those. And with like Mana Crypt, I was like, well, I don't really know if I want to spend the money. It might get reprinted, it might drop, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, you know what? I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to happen. Something's telling me no. And I went and bought it anyways. And so far, it's been a good decision. But it could be a bad one down the road.
Yeah, you and your fancy cards, man.
Fancy cards. Kevin, do you have any thoughts on speculations? I know you're a big MTG subreddit finance boy, and you are the most financially responsible.
That's what the
out
intro
of this group.
Said. Yeah,
I'm the most successful person. Sorry, I'm checking foil Gaia's Cradles to see whether or not I made a mistake. The answer is small mistake. I could have waited a month or so. So I think my answer for this, it's really nuanced, man. I don't have like a single like how do I evaluate singles? Lord, they're all different. You know, like if I'm buying dual lands, reserve list cards are very different than cards that are modern playable, like your ledger shredders, or like hell, I was thinking about holding off on all the cons fetches because I was certain they were going to be in friggin' Double Masters 2022. I fucking missed the mark. and sometimes you end up estimating wrong. So like for reprint things,
We
though,
told you they wouldn't be, and you still thought they would.
Whoa.
I was hopeful that they would.
Same. I was like,
Dude, that's like $50 right
I know,
now.
man. It's been 7 years. Anywho, bitching aside.
There's another Modern Horizons coming
So
out.
for reprintable cards, I think that it's good to look at 2 years back, or like
Yeah, 2 to 3 is where I
18
usually
months
look.
back.
Yep, 2
because
to 3.
WotC has to be slow, right? Like their process is very particular, and they have to go through all these steps to get cards approved. And I don't know exactly how it works, but we've been told it's roughly 18 to 24 month turnaround time. So look at when a card spikes bad. I mean, like just rocket ship shit. Look at those cards and then say, okay, it's been about 18 months. It's been 24 months. What should I expect? Like, what's the next big set that I can expect this in? Go look at when Dockside was printed. Go look at the date 3 weeks ago. You'll go, oh, cool, that makes a little bit of sense. I probably should have put some brain power on that one. Which is why the cons fetches blow my mind. Anywho, if you're working with reserve list cards, however,
It's a different ball.
it's a different ball game. But my general answer is that I've noticed reserve list cards do a weird sort of zigzag where they'll kind of shoot up pretty fast over a short period, like a month or so, and then they'll very slowly trail down over several months or sometimes several years, and then they'll have a kind of sharp incline later when they get more interest. So if you want to buy a reserve list card, my answer is just like investing, just get it, right? But if you really want a penny pinch, play the game. Wait. Chill.
I think when it comes to reserve list cards, there's not really a best time to buy.
Correct.
Like reserve list cards are kind of like the stock market. There's no better time to invest than right now, right?
Correct.
So like if you have the money to afford the card, I would just get it because you're gonna regret that. The only time
Don't live in FOMO.
Yeah.
Do not live in FOMO.
The only
Correct.
time
You
I've
don't
ever
wanna be
seen
there.
like that be a bad decision is when they print a just generically better version. So like something like Yawgmoth's Will, right? That was like plus $200, and then they print Underworld Breach, which is just infinitely better than that card. Like, yeah, that card's gonna go down now because it's losing playability, but like they're not gonna reprint anything better than the dual lands. You know what I mean? Yep. There's only one wheel, and that wheel will always be around. They're not gonna print something better than that. Gaia's Cradle is as broken as it can get. They're not gonna print something better than that. So if you have the money to afford it, there's no better time than now to get it. Because you're gonna regret it at some point, and you're gonna love it at another point because you're up a bunch of money, then you're down, then you're up, then you're down. If you're playing the card, it shouldn't really matter that much because at least you're getting the enjoyment out of it that you want.
Well, that happened with the choke, with all the reserve list cards, with the choke on the market during COVID. People trying to make some quick money. The buyouts that happened, it was all like MTG finance related, and like Rudy and a bunch of people, content creators, were talking about it. So it became this hot topic, and before you know it, there's a shortage of them on the market, and the price just skyrocketed. I mean, I watched like my Mox Diamond literally double in price in like a week.
Well, and then now you look at it, and like we hit a portion where the market was flooded because now everybody wants to sell them off, right?
Yep.
Like it's much like reserve list is much more like its own stock market than it is the secondary market of Magic, right? Like those cards hold a different.
Yeah, they don't play by the same rules.
No, not at all. So I think that like it's really hard to tell people like this is how you should invest with reserve list cards. Like, dude, just buy the card when you can afford it, and like do your best to just play it as much as you can to get your money's worth.
And like, and like to that
And
point,
take care of it.
yeah, and like
Hard case it.
Don't shuffle your
Don't
cards.
shuffle
You
your
can't say that to me and Kian because
You-
we get ours signed and
Yeah,
marked up and
all right.
altered. And,
Literally, I don't have much to add to this conversation because I'll play damaged fucking cards. I don't. It's sleeve playable is good to me. I don't care. I'm gonna buy the card and I'm gonna enjoy it. You guys are like, no, you're playing with your dual lands? That's crazy talk. No, they are Magic cards and cardboard.
Bro, your dual lands used to be coasters.
hey, don't keep talking shit about my own.
Honestly, though, I think that's an excellent answer. If you just want to play a card, fucking sort by heavily played and be like, "Oh, give me 80% of that," and they'll usually give it to you.
And most of the time, you're surprised by the quality because it's not too bad.
I've bought damaged cards like if you can find a damaged card with an image on TCG Player, I've saved like $200 to $300 on reserve list cards because it'll be damaged and it'll be like a nick in the top right corner, or like it'll have the artist signature
Or
on it.
a slight warping because it got wet.
I've
And
never
it's
even gotten
technically
a-
damaged, but sleeve.
I've never
playable.
even gotten a warped card. I remember my Mox Diamond, my first one I bought was a foreign Portuguese marked as damaged, and I got it in the mail and it was near mint. And it was literally marked as damaged because the guy was like, I couldn't sell the Portuguese one. And I was like, are you kidding me? I traded it for an English and then got a foil one like 2 weeks later.
And
Like,
the Portuguese are going to be fuming.
well, it's just like you can get like that. If you want to talk about like evaluating singles, like that's something that you can really look at, is like look at foreign language, look at like different play conditions, and you can get some good deals, especially if there's images out there. Like you can get way below market price. Also, like groups, like Facebook groups and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
that's a
they're
really
crazy.
good way to get cards from people that are just trying to offload their big spec. You know, if someone bought 40 copies of a card and they're like, hey, I want to offload all these copies, but I will sell them at $10 below TCG. You can get some really good deals on some cards that you need, you know, and they'll sell you just one copy. They don't want to offload the whole thing. They
Right.
just want to make their money and get out.
And I think people have figured out just go to Facebook groups for high end singles.
Well, it's
I
also
think-
because of like tax evasion and stuff like that. You don't have to pay
That's a
taxes.
different.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's a
a
different
whole
story,
different-
Sam.
yeah,
Stop.
that's-
We,
bro.
we pay our taxes except for Ristic Study and Mystic Remora.
You never pay your
So-
fucking taxes unless Bergie's out.
I will say, it's when buying cards. There's different steps I take based on how much I want the card. I think reserve list cards. My general answer is if you have the money and you're comfortable, just to get it. If you really want to be a weasel, you know, go look at previous graphs. Go look at when it recently spiked. Go look at why it's played, where it's played. Do your research. Like become comfortable intellectually with what you're buying and what you're working with. You can't just jump in and be like, I like this card.
Yeah, you can also go on eBay and just watch
That
bids,
is what I was-
auctions that are happening, and you just kind of wait until like the timer runs down. Sometimes you can just put in an offer; it'll bid up to that amount for you. The algorithm that they use is pretty nice actually and user friendly, and
like-
you can end up shaving $100 off of a
Well, you
card.
can even
What's that?
on eBay
Over
auctions. It's
reserve.
really fun because you can set it at whatever you're comfortable spending, and say like, I will set it at $450, and they will bid for you up until $450, and outbid whoever's bidding up to that card. And then eventually, if you get outbid, you lose the card, or you can get it for $350 because someone kept trying to outbid you, and they're like, you know what, fuck this guy, I don't care anymore.
I was gonna say set saved searches on eBay. If it's a card that you think that isn't gonna be spiking soon, like I go onto eBay and I'll set searches for stuff for months. And you know, hell, go to the buy it now with an offer, and just be like, hey, I'll lowball the hell out of you, and they'll usually say fuck you. Sometimes they will, you know, come back at $10 cheaper, and you just pass on those, right? But if you lowball enough people, hell, back in the day when I bought my Bayous before they spiked in 2016-17, I was like, 160, what about 115? And the guy was like, yeah, okay. No, like no argument, no
Yeah,
discussion.
sometimes people just need to get rid of stuff for their own personal reasons.
Dude, I look
you
at
can definitely catch a deal that way for sure.
Yeah, I look at eBay most recently sold. And I mean, I also dabble with some Pokemon stuff, but that's a different topic. But like sometimes you catch these sold auctions, man, and it's like, what the fuck? Who got this? This is near mint. It's listed as MP, and the dude got it for half off of MP's price.
Yeah.
It's just like, just be diligent and be willing to put in work if you really want to catch a deal.
Well,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
like you guys were alluding to earlier, like look at where it's playable. I remember Ledger Shredder, right? Because that's a really topical and really like recent card. I remember when it first came out, I'm like, yo, this is really good. And I was like, it's good in more than just cEDH. And like, this is standard playable too? Shit!
Modern
Yeah.
Pioneer, everything.
Yeah,
up.
and so,
maybe
like,
not Legacy. But
I remember I
everything's picking up.
traded for
Baby
one
Chrome.
like the first week it came out, and it was at like $8 on release, and I traded for one, and I was like, yo, like I really want this card, and I gave it to Bryce for his deck. Then the next week I had to pay $30 for my own copy because of how much it was, right? But like being aware of, if I was aware of that, and like I knew that it would be played in more formats, but I didn't really think, I was like, oh, this card won't be worth that much, you know? Dude, it's still at $20 right now, right?
Is it
Like,
really? Wow.
yeah, it's so like being aware of that and trying to make sure that you just know like when to spend and when and what's a good time, you know? Like right now for double masters, a lot of these like borderless foils, like right on release, they're super cheap. Like it's probably a good time to pick them up while everybody's opening them and selling them right away.
But at the same time,
And then you
some
can
of them-
trade that up to a reserve list staple maybe in the future.
Trades,
Because
dude.
it's-
Oh my god,
because
trades
they're
are so
super
good.
rare just by like, the limited print run that Double Masters is, and like how cool those premium foils. I will say the premium foils in Double Masters 2022 are primo. There's
Rib
no
for your pleasure.
Commander Legends warping and crap going on. Like they are super nice.
I will say, since we're on the topic of singles, and since we don't really have this topic in the episode, I would like to bring up like trading for cards, because like one of the best ways that I save money on my purchases, like when you want to talk about financial literacy, is I just get rid of the cards that I'm not playing anymore. And I try to trade up to those cards that I need. I remember like my foil Mox Diamond, I wanted one so bad. I traded like a Jeweled Lotus, a regular Mox Diamond, and a Dockside. And it was like a fair deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I got a card that I would never be able to get, and I didn't spend $1 on it. You know what I mean? I had other cards that I didn't need or I had extras of, and I utilized that to get a card that I wanted. And I think that's like the number one way to be financially literate in cEDH is like, you know, trying to offload what you're not playing and use what you are playing. Yeah. Something that I kind of do a lot is I try to own one staple or one copy of every staple and the best copy of it I can own. Whatever copy makes me the happiest.
Yeah, and I think you should do that in general, right?
You like your fancy cards, Ed.
Well, like, yeah, I've got Judge Promo Soul Rings and Mana Crypts, stuff like that, but those make me the happiest when I play them, so I want to own those copies. And I spent maybe to get, like, my Mox Diamond, my Judge Promo Ring, my Judge Promo Tower, my Judge Promo Opal, like, it was all at the same Command Fest. I paid, like, $100 for over $2,000 worth of cards. You know what I mean? Like,
that was a good Command Fest for the boys.
Yeah. So like trading, I think, is a huge way.
It's a trading card game.
Yeah, and when you're evaluating singles, like new singles and stuff like that, if you can go to your LGS and trade for them early, you can get some crazy deals on cards.
Offload them
straight
right
up.
away.
Yeah, like I had a bunch of Shocklands. I played Slivers, so I had like every Shockland ever that was ever made, multiple copies. I was like, I don't need all these. I was trading Shocklands, dude. I got like a foil Force of Negation yesterday for like nothing. You know, it's just like that's another way to really capitalize on the systems that are already in place to get the cards that you need.
So I wouldn't say this is a good investment strategy, but I did it on sheer accident. So I used to play a lot of Modern, and I would say I was indecisive on decks, but I would swap between multiple different versions of Abzan, Jund, BGX, whatever. You know, like I played everything you could do that had a B and a G in it, right?
Yeah.
And so I probably could at any given time craft like 7 different, rock decks plus affinity. And I didn't do it all the time, but occasionally when I would get sick of a certain, like if I got sick of Jund, right, I had Ren and Sixes I picked up for $20 before they got to like $100 friggin' dollars. And then I sold them at 80. Yeah, obviously, buy low, sell high, easy, right? But I think the buy low, sell high is easier when you have a larger card pool. Like if you have a lot of stuff, pick up things that might be cheap right now, maybe look at something that, why is this card out of favor in Legacy or Modern? If you have a larger card pool, what you can do is look and see, this card is like 3 times more than what I paid for it. I'm just going to sell it to Card Kingdom, make a little bit of money, and I want to buy this thing that I think is currently cheap. Like, hell, I was doing that with friggin' foil Boseiju. Like, I'm trying to get Invocations, and I got a whole bunch of the... I love them.
You can't read the fucking card.
I literally don't know. Dark Ritual and Entomb look so similar, I don't know which one
exactly,
is which.
Garbage. Get that shit out of here.
Anywho, I got the...
That and Expeditions are
Zendikar Masterpieces, I love.
There is no Zendikar. It's Expeditions, Kev.
Yeah.
Sorry there, poor boy. I'm going to crack my friggin' $800 fetch right now.
At least I can read my cards.
I can't read Shibo.
That explains a lot.
So, like, moving cards that are currently higher than you bought them at for cards that you want, obviously big brain play, right? Like, Spencer traded fucking, like, literally 130 cards for a Twister last night. Which we're still hype on. Yeah. And the cool thing is now, all those cards had a crap load of variants. They were going to go up and down and reprints and doesn't matter now because he's locked it in with a reserve list card. So he went from a high variability...
Not just a reserve list card,
I
but
mean,
a piece of
9.
power.
Exactly.
That's a once-in-a-lifetime type of trade, though.
So he took a high variability and high variance pile of cards and moved it into a very low variance card. And that's really the main thing is, right? Like, are you here for money? Are you here for just playing the game? And do you want a little bit of both, right? Like, do you want to, like, play a card for 3 years and then sell it off later? That's up to you. Figure out what you want out of the game and then... start asking yourself, well, how do I get there? Make a game plan, and then, execute it slowly with what's comfortable.
Well, and a good example of that is like something we can harken back to like recently is Modern Horizons 2, right? I play tons of cEDH decks. What is the most of the mana base made in cEDH decks? Fetch lands. Fetch lands were like $20 all of a sudden. Like I could get an Arid Mesa for $12, like at a certain point in time.
Buy up at those times.
Like I'm gonna play them anyways, so I might as well buy a few copies of them and throw them in the decks that I have. And then when I'm not playing these cards anymore, or I realize, I do have a play set of Arid Mesas, I really only need 1 or 2. and they're up to $40 again, it's not really an investment as much as it was like I just bought at the right time, right? Yep. So like knowing when like things get reprinted and when do you evaluate when to buy it, like that's a good indication of like now's the time to buy. And it will help you in the future to make bigger trades and get cards that are newer or nicer or things that you want when you want them. So I don't know, I think that like you can get a lot of buying the cards you play and buying a few copies of the cards you play if you play them in more than one deck. Or if it's a card that's really good in your deck and you're like, wow, I think this card is a little undervalued, right? Like when certain cards were like broken from the start. I was going to say like when Jessica's Will came out, but Jessica's Will was pretty expensive from the start. But like even if it's a card that you know is broken and there's a foil version that's almost the same price as the regular version, maybe pick that up. And later you can trade the foil version, trade down back to the regular version, and you'll make a few dollars and you can get a better card that you need, you know?
And remember your staple reprint timelines, which as we kind of touch base on are about 2 years.
Fetches,
and that's just from like experience for, you know, trading cards with my friends and buying and selling stuff for like several years. Like that seems to be the good time frame, is around 2 years for staples, because if they saturate the market with like a bunch of Misties, let's say they reprint it again and all of a sudden they're $17. If they print it again, it's not going to go a whole lot lower than $17. So like anytime after a fresh reprint of a staple is an excellent opportunity to pick up multiple copies. All of those copies are going up over time. Every single one of them. They're not going to reprint these high value chase cards that they want for selling their product. It hypes up their product. They're not going to reprint these cards into the dirt. Like that's a Yu-Gi-Oh error that I don't see Wizards making. They're pretty regular with their every few years give us some nice spice to pick up. So
I don't know. I also think an interesting point to consider is when you're looking at cards, as Adam said, you know, with cards that you like to play, look at cards other people like to play. Like right now, MCL's coming out, so I have some opinions on myself on that. But like back when I was starting Magic, my friend convinced me. He's like, buy a playset of every fetch of cons fetches, and I was like, bro, that's like $200. That's expensive. I'm brand new, and he was like, trust me, you won't regret it. I reluctantly hit buy. I still run every single one of those fetches. To this day, I would be kind of fucked if I didn't have 4 of every one of those fetches.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a pretty nice discussion on that topic.
For sure.
Moving on, we got a spicy one, I think. Kian, do you want to go into this one?
I have the clickbait question. Should Wizards of the Coast abolish the reserve list?
Yes. All right. Next topic.
All right. So coming from a player's point of view, obviously, yes. I think Wizards should abolish the reserve list. Why? Because it would create a high density of players into more internal formats like Legacy, Vintage, and our format, cEDH. But we got to keep in mind that Wizards is a company owned by Hasbro, and they don't really care about what our opinions are or what our feelings are. They care about their bottom dollar. And it's really sad because, like, personally, and I think I speak for most of the Magic community, I want to like have a playset of every dual land readily available. I want to play all the best decks I can. So, yeah. Honestly, I think they're making enough money as is to I
think we all think they're making enough money.
Yeah, but like,
oh yeah,
but like,
I wish I had a printer that prints money.
Yeah, like
right.
That's why they don't care about like abolishing the reserve list. Like, it doesn't change their bottom dollar, and like they're not affected. They're still making money, and if they did abolish it, would they make more money?
Oh,
maybe.
Secret lair dual lands.
Maybe not. I think they make more money off more prints, like more special prints of cards, like secret layers.
Yeah, secret layer
That's
foils.
that's the perfect opportunity for some dual lands.
I think that it's a little more complicated than that. I don't think it's just like the bottom dollar. I think there is general fear that they will get sued by a lot of very rich people.
Well, there is
yes, but that whole agreement isn't a contract. It's not an on-paper contract.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But
It's a verbal contract.
I think that Wizards of the Coast as a company, if they weren't owned by
Hasbro?
Hasbro. I think Wizards of the Coast would be like, okay, like this wasn't an actual written contract. Yes, we may get sued, but I think it would be in our general best interest to abolish it.
Oh, great, but I agree with that. I think they have everything to gain from doing something like this because what product they put it in is going to fly. Put 2 in a product and then space it out and put 2 more cards in another product. Do you have any idea how much how hot that product is going to be?
They tried doing that. It
They're
was
gonna
called From the Vault, and people got fucking pissed about it.
Well, then they started making From the Vault like printings that weren't great. It's like, cool, all these cards are mediocre. Thanks for a special version of this card.
Cabal ritual.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the problem is like you haven't done it for so long. It's like, can you really even do it now? Right? Like,
I think that's
they're kind of trapped in this hole that they put
suppose, yeah,
themselves
that's
in.
an
Like, they
interesting
tried to
thing.
get around it, right? They tried to say, well, if we print it as a foil, it's not technically the same card being reprinted.
Mox Diamond.
Yeah, exactly. Or Judge promos, Gaia's Cradle, Wheel of Fortune, all those followed the same rules, right? So they already tried that, and there was tons of blowback, and I think they're at that point where like they've gone too far to turn around, which sucks. Personally, yeah, get rid of the fucking shit. I don't care that I've spent tens of thousands of dollars into this game buying reserve list staples, because I just want more people to be able to play without worrying about, oh, like, does this LGS have proxy rules? If we play in a big tournament, can I not play my deck because I can't play my cards? Stuff like that. Like, I would rather them just get rid of it, and like, I will eat the loss. Like, what do I care? But there's people that have put in millions of dollars into doing this, that I think that, like, our
Well, that's
opinion,
their mistake. Just
Have
do it
good
anyways.
enough lawyers that they can give WotC some
yeah,
trouble.
unfortunately,
for
like,
sure.
it just sucks because, like, yeah, get rid of it. Like, the player base can only scream so loud, and who should you be listening to? Like, do you really care about these people that are using your game as an investment, that are kind of ruining it for other people? And not ruining it in the sense of, like, ruining the game, but you're making it financially unplayable, which is not, I don't think, was the goal. This isn't MetaZoo, like, MetaZoo's entire goal is not to be a game, it's to be an investment, if we're being completely honest. So, like, why listen to those people when your player base is preaching for something different?
Because you pre-agreed to it. You already agreed to it.
At
And those whales, let's call them what they are, they're whales, are taking advantage of that, and just, like, nothing against Rudy, man. He's a very smart individual, and he made some really intelligent plays when it came to, like, the reserve list market and stuff. I mean, he's got binders full of tropical islands and stuff like that, right? But at the same time, like, what is he doing to the rest of the market, to the rest of the... He's a gatekeeper. He's holding the keys that allow other people to play this format that we all love. And for me, that makes me upset. That really does. Like, I have respect for Rudy and people that do the things that he does. And on a small scale, I like to do it sometimes, Like, it's enjoyable. It's almost like, I don't want to say gambling, but it's almost like gambling. It's like
feels
playing
good
the
to
stock
make
market,
money,
you
right?
know?
It's in between
It feels
stocks
good to
and
make
gambling.
money, yeah. But at the same time, it does definitely have a negative effect on the player base. And I think at the end of the day, Wizards should be caring more about their player base than how much product they're able to insta-sell, because there are people buying pallets that sit in warehouses for years and years and years and years and years.
Well, I
More product open equals more happy players, and your game lives longer because of it.
well, and like, kind of what you said, the big thing is, what do whales do for the game?
Nothing.
Because they don't do anything for the game.
They hold
They
the
do
keys.
stuff for the secondary market, and they do stuff for other investors. But for the game, they're not helping Magic become more popular.
They help Wizards by providing a list of cards that are going up in value that they can use as chase rares.
Yeah, basically, that's like literally it. Like, it's
And maybe that's why they won't abolish it.
maybe because they can continue to have. Yeah, I have no idea.
They do benefit off of it, I guess, a little bit in that sense.
But still, though, like, you're affecting the people that, like, it sucks because, like, I don't really know, like, how much do those people really, like, what I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, WotC does their or Hasbro does their, like, financial reports every year. They're like, this year we made $2 billion, and that was $100 million more than last year, and this is the best year of Magic products ever selling, right? And it's like, yeah, and the player base is growing and everything's going great, right? But, like, would you sell all that product if those guys weren't investing in the game anymore? Probably not, because they're buying truckloads of product to sit on it and sell it later for higher prices. But so, like, it sucks because they do benefit from it because people are buying it regardless, right? But as someone who plays the game, it just sucks to see other people not be able to.
It's got to look bad to the new player too. Like Double Masters just came out,
And no one
and the
can get it.
allocations are so terrible. And you know there are whales out there that have literal trucks full of this product, and there are people. The set's not even out that can't afford a $400 box on Amazon. Like, that's shitty. That's kind of shitty.
Well, and Watsy's excuse is that
There are shipping delays
no, not
and
that.
production.
They have
delays.
literally said on articles posted on their website, well, maybe this isn't the product for you. Which, what are you making product for if it's not for your player base?
True.
Collectors.
Noted, however, they are not reprinting cards on the reserve list with the old Double Masters 2020 dose. I will say, as for reserved list cards, and should they abolish it, I got some bullets in the chamber. Kean said it would benefit Watsy. Hard disagree. Watsy does not give a fuck. You know what happened in Chronicles? That game almost goddamn died.
Yep.
Because investors, those fucking dickhead whales that buy all these cards and are like, oh, I want my investments to go up. You're blah, blah, blah. Those people literally keep the game alive. Hate them or not. I fucking don't like them either. But without people buying mass amounts of cards, your game is not going to survive unless it is incredibly good.
I think this game is incredibly good enough to survive.
But if people give up on it, they're not going to stick around, right?
Why would people? I don't think that anybody would give up on the game, right? Like,
I mean, if I was a new player and a chance to get some staples that I desperately need comes about with Double Masters 2022, and because of a bunch of whales and shortages and supply issues, I can't get any. Yeah, that's discouraging. That'll ruin it for me. Yeah. That's one player that Wizards loses, and multiply that by a bunch of new players because a new super hot set that all their homies were like, yo, if you're going to get into Magic, you need to buy some of this, and it's not available. Like, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I do think that that's kind of the draw of Magic, right? Like, the reserve list is like the premium. Like, that's what sets Magic apart from any other card game. Because, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it may have expensive cards, but it doesn't have, like, the vast amount of, like, reserve list.
The untouchables.
The untouchable stuff.
The exclusivity of it. Because that stuff sells. It does.
Well, and that's the appeal of Magic.
I just look at, like, different card games, like Pokemon, right? Like, what would abolishing the reserve list do? It would just make the game more playable, and all these whales that have invested in large amounts of cards from the beginning, your card prices aren't going to be affected. Pikachu gets printed 1,000 times, but if you get an Alpha Pikachu, it's still the best.
I can confirm with hard negatives in my bank account that fucking Shining Tyrannitars are still very fucking expensive.
May we hearken back to the most financially responsible.
The most financially. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like there's all these examples of that. Shivan Dragon is not reserve list, but an Alpha Shivan Dragon is still multiple thousands of dollars. You know,
yes.
Like, I don't think that there's a loss to reprinting the reserve list because it just gives new players the opportunity to play the game. And I think there's a lot of people who are like, my investments, my money. It's like, yeah, dude, well, I'm sorry, but I still want to be able to play the game. Yeah. And like, I don't want this to turn into Pokemon where card prices are affected by what's the coolest thing in the box, right? Because like, card prices in Pokemon are all based on openings. It's not based on the game as much as it is in other formats.
I like the shiny man.
Yeah, the shiny man is cool. It's
cEDH
worth the more.
staples are driven by cEDH. Yep. We all know that now.
Yeah, well, and yeah. So
Pokemon
like,
is literally, what's the most nostalgia-hitting Pokemon card? Bam!
Hey, let's just slap a Charizard in every set.
Yeah,
literally, that's what they actually
I know it is.
and like, think about like the Pokemon 25, right? That had just come out, the 25th anniversary stuff. They printed that into the ground, but people were still like loving to open the product or whatever. And it doesn't matter that like it's reprints of old cards. Those old cards still hold all their value.
Well, people are also loving to buy up that product because there were other people going to McDonald's and putting 10 grand into the fucking dispenser. Like, give me as many Happy Meals as you can. And it's like...
But still, I don't want Magic to turn into that, and that's what it seems like it's turning into. Is like, oh, a collector's pack is $400. It feels like the freaking Pokemon COVID stuff, where it's like, oh, we're just gonna buy as many boxes as we can and open them for YouTube videos, and we never played the game, but it doesn't matter because the cards look cool.
Yeah, and you got people fighting each other in parking lots over Pokemon cards because like there aren't enough of them. Because everyone bought all of them.
Yeah, like back in the day in Chronicles,
to sit on Magic and resell for
when
more.
Magic almost died, the player base was also like super small and not what it is today. And you have millions of people playing the game all over the world to the point where it's like, does that really matter? I don't think so. I don't think that if you overprint a set, people are going to be like, no, I'm going to stop playing Magic now because now everybody has a Mana Crypt. It's like, no, that's good. Let people play the game, and let's make the cards affordable. Print it to the ground. Fuck it.
I like playing brains.
If they printed everything like they printed Chronicles now, who cares that the cards are all worth 50 cents? At least we can have fun and play together.
Can I make a weird analogy?
It can collapse the economy of a game, though.
True. That's what I was going to say.
It can make enough people mad that like
They'll
they'll just give up. It can. So that like it's a fine line because Yu-Gi-Oh did
all
that
of Rudy's
too.
Tropical Islands when he gives up.
Yu-Gi-Oh did that too. They started printing like their mythic rares at like uncommon level in sets just to like sell product and get cards that were expensive into players' hands, and it backfired like super hard.
I mean, there's obviously a balance to it, and I trust that.
Because like I don't want to buy a box and have everything be worth nothing.
Kevin, you
A
seem
box
to
is
have
so
something to say.
Oh, I got
about
more bullets
this.
in the chamber. So
More bullets. Oh, I didn't know you were done.
Oh
We're
no,
done.
bro,
Sorry,
we got it's fucking JoJo Part 5 over here, boy.
Dun, dun.
So, WotC made a promise to the whales, the baseball card collectors, like, yes, you can move into our game and make money, right? That's the reserve list promise that they basically did.
Yep.
Was that we'll guarantee if you buy our fucking dumb rectangles, you can make money, and then 45 years from now, you'll have $1 billion or whatever. So, I think this analogy is similar to, let's say you've got a friend, and something happens to you, and your friend saves your life, right? And you say, holy shit, thank you, you just saved my life. Like, how can I ever repay you? Like, I'll do it, like, you've given me something that I can't ever make that up, right? And so you're really loyal to that person, you're best friends for life, and you help them out whenever you can. But then, as the years go on, that friend now is kind of a drunken fucking mess, and they can't take care of their life, and well, you're always going to help your buddy out because he saved your life, you know? There's a point at which that promise kind of drags on and you're like, fuck, I made a mistake. Like, yeah, he helped me, but, like, I don't want to make this promise anymore. Like, you know, 25 years later, like, I want to print these cards again, man. Like, how do I yes, you guys kept my game alive when it was small, but now it's fucking me. And that's where WotC is, right? They made a promise to people that kept their game alive financially because people were buying a bunch of the early boxes. And now it's coming to bite them, because people are bailing on their older formats, which helps keep the game alive, right? So, yes, they're feeding it into standard and all these fancy products that we buy because we're all stupid. But I think old legacy, old vintage, that's a cool thing to keep people around, and it sucks that WotC is handicapped by that. And I don't think they will ever abolish the reserve list because they tried. As we said, they tried with From the Vault. It fucking backfired hard. So they have flat out just said, we're never doing it, it's too legal, it's not going to happen. So should they do it? That question doesn't fucking matter. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think this, Adam, I know you wanted to address or have a question for us about what, like, reprint patterns and others.
So, kind of moving on from that topic, because I think we can talk for hours about the reserve list and whether or not it should be abolished. Yeah. When you guys, like, how do you guys think reprints and WotC's reprint patterns or policies affect card pricing and availability? And does it price certain individuals out of the format? So kind of what we were talking about earlier, right? We've kind of noticed there's a reprint pattern. A card normally doesn't get reprinted for at least 2 years, right?
Staples anyway, like big heavy hitters that
you're not
sell
going to see
product.
Dockside Extortionists get reprinted until it's been out for a while, right? Which we just saw. It was about 2 years. It was the 2018 or the 2019 precons.
That's
so
4 years.
3 years almost. Yeah, 4 years. So they definitely are slow to bring old cards to come about again. And I think what that does is it really prices people out of the game, right? Especially newer players particularly. So like when you look at that, how do you think it affects the game, right? Like how do you think it affects new players entering? How do you think it affects old players trying to, buy these new staples and they can't get one because it's $80, right? And do you think that reprint policy should be more frequent? Do you think that they should reprint cards more often? Do you think that they need to, if a card is a staple that needs to be seen again, do they drop it in a secret layer only a year later and say, hey, if you really want this card, you can just buy it straight up, in a secret layer with some other cards that maybe aren't as such chase cards or things like that? Like, what do you guys suggest, or what are some solutions that you can provide to this problem if you think it's a problem? Some of you guys might not think it's a problem or think it's good, but like personally, I think it can be a big problem. I think like the most prevalent version of this was Dockside. Like you print it in a precon, it's a broken fucking card, and then nobody can get it. So how do you fix that problem? Like, What are your guys' takes on that?
Well, they don't really. I don't think Wizards. I honestly, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Wizards like R&D department anymore. Like, I don't really think they think about it too much. I think that they look personally. I think they look at the secondary market, and they go, "What cards are hot right now that we can print?" Because they pre-plan these sets. What is it, like 2 years in advance? Right?
That's what they say. Like 24 months
on
is
average.
set,
I know that Baldur's Gate, for some reason, the dude who created or was the lead designer of Baldur's Gate, the most
That's
Dungeons and
Gavin.
Dragons,
I think Gavin works on.
he
the Commander
worked on it
Legends.
for that was like 6 years.
The original Commander
Feels
Legends
bad
is-
because the set was kind of
Yeah.
a flop, but he worked on it for a
Flavor
while.
wise, it was good.
Flavor-wise, great.
From what,
but,
because
like,
I've read all his articles and stuff. From what they said about it, it was like Commander Legends 1 took so long to make and was really good, but had some really broken cards. So for this new one, they didn't want to use partner, and they had to find a way to work around that. And it took a lot of planning and a lot of pre-planning to figure out how to do it. And they can't just make more partners that have partner, because you would just break the game with
Right.
all these infinite partners. So they had to power it down, and yeah, there's definitely like.
I personally don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with Wizards' current reprint trends, but I do think that it can be a lot for new players to have to think about or feel like they want to think about. And I would just encourage people to just, if you're gonna invest in a format like it was mentioned multiple times, just get in now, just do it now. There's no better time than now. You're gonna take some losses, you're gonna get some wins, you're gonna see cards that you just bought get reprinted, and then you're gonna see them trickle back up to the same value a couple of years later when another set where it could be reprinted doesn't reprint it, and you're back where you started. So I know it's a lot to handle as a new player thinking about all of that stuff, but just get in where you can, when you can, and keep an eye on the market. Keep an eye on when the last time a card was reprinted, because you can expect within 2 to 3 years, if it's a staple and it's a chase rare, that you'll see it somewhere.
So, I think that, how do I put this? When reprints happen, so when, any new box comes out that says, hey, we're going to do a whole bunch of reprints, you're going to be able to get these cards you've wanted for a long time, and now they're cheap and they're abundant, right? It does two things. A, it lowers the price, but B, it also brings a lot of people into the game, right? Because a lot of people who were like, oh man, when they reprint fetches, I'm totally going to buy some for my commander deck. And guess what? They do, and then they get their friends in, and they bring more people. So it ends up sometimes paradoxically making prices more expensive because you made cards more available, so now more people buy them. It's like the whole idea of widening the roads to get rid of traffic. It just lets more people on the road now. Yeah.
That's what's about to happen with MSeal, I'm telling you. Everyone's like, oh, this card's going to be $50. It's worse than Vamp Tutor. There aren't any. It was printed at Mythic, limited print run set.
Well, what about
everyone needs a copy right now.
What about the FOMO? There's this artificial FOMO that WotC creates with this whole reprint stuff, where it's like, oh, we're gonna put all these chase cards in this set and get them now, or otherwise you're gonna miss out, and then you won't get them for 2 years. It's like you're forcing people to spend all this money, and it's kind of creating this toxic kind of
Magic toxic? No.
Well, you know what I mean.
Bro,
It's like this. There's this toxic mindset around buying cards and all this kind of stuff, or buying things. Like the professor will always preach, buy singles, don't buy whatever, because reprints, yada yada. So I just think that there's definitely a I don't know, I think there's a problem with it. I don't think it's enough. I think that they create this FOMO, and it's really forcing people to have to spend money.
Do you think it's because they don't reprint things enough, or it's because they print it too much?
I think it's because they don't print things enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a problem with. I don't think you can print something too much, at least in the format we play.
And see, that's what's
unless you're taking a Mythic and moving it to uncommon.
That's
I
fine.
mean,
Just don't move a rare to a Mythic.
I don't care either way. We
Hellkite Overlord.
We play a deck building game. You know what I mean? If you make more cards available to people, it doesn't matter to me what the rarity is, and especially when you play competitively. I don't care about if you move a Mythic to uncommon, because it doesn't mean that if you give a Mythic to uncommon, to me that doesn't really matter, because the card is still there and playable. If you took legendary off of something that wasn't legendary, well, maybe that matters now, because now you can have 4 in play at the same time. You know what I mean?
Well,
but shifting rarity doesn't. I don't care. I don't really care. And I think if you print it more, I don't care either. Like, I just want to be able to afford the cards and play the game.
I'm with you. Honestly, and fucking Wizards will never do it. Frankly, I think Pokemon Company figured it out when they were just like, fuck it, gas, print the cards a billion times. WotC, for some reason, doesn't want to print more cards, and I think it's because they realize we'll keep buying them at their dumb prices.
Yeah.
But
Like,
one thing that bugs me,
Exclusivity and FOMO, dude.
straight up, but honestly, God, it just fucking frustrates me to no goddamn end, because the dipshits on Reddit, especially the main MTG sub, oh my god, these people have 2 brain cells racing for fucking 3rd place, right? They're sitting there like, oh, it's always spoiler season, why does WotC redo so many cards I can't keep up? And then they're like, the cards are so expensive.
Yeah.
Bro, you can't have both. Either print this shit into the ground, and it's going to be hard to keep up with it. Yeah, like, sucks. Or you're going to be paying fucking $800 for that shit you want.
Well, and print it into the ground, because, like, let the whales buy the product, open it, and sell the singles. I'll buy the singles. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, because, like, that's what happens when you print a lot of product, is a lot of people open it. Like, all these cards on TCG Player, I don't think are from guys like us opening them. You know what I mean? Like, it's from stores and whales and people who are single sellers opening these cards and doing that. So, like, if you print it into the ground to the point where they're just readily available, then fine, so be it. That's the price.
I think it would also discourage the whales.
Fine, then the product gets cheaper for us to buy. And now we can buy boxes for once.
And like I have a differing opinion from all
Product
guys,
availability to the player is important.
I don't think even like matters. Who cares? Who cares if they reprint shit? You're going to buy the cards anyways. It doesn't matter. Quit your bitching and buy the cards. It doesn't fucking matter. As much as we sit here and be like, oh, well, actually, they're going to be reprinting this and this set. We should buy now. Who the fuck cares? You're going to buy the cards anyways. So just stop causing problems for Wizards, and maybe they'll do something nice for us.
Dude, yeah, straight
My
up.
wallet cares, Keen. I got bills to pay.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, WotC doesn't give a fuck, bro. These people realize they're like, hold on a minute, bro. You're telling me I can put funny pictures of fucking dogs on a piece of cardboard, and these dipshits will spend an entire pickup truck's worth of money on them?
Literally.
Bet. And they did it, and they were like, yo, they're going to keep doing it. This time, we're going to make it shiny on the outsides and the insides. And people were like, holy fucking shit, it has texture?
Because Wizards will literally be like, all right, here's a new shiny art limited edition. Be like, holy shit, I gotta buy that card right
Bro, did you make
now.
Dogside into a monkey?
All right, no, don't even get me started on that, because that's just wrong.
You printed Ragavan again, but he makes more treasures?
Hey, it's Ragavan's granddad. Look at him. Look at him fucking monkey, gobbo, whatever it is. All right.
Moving on. Diddly done beat that dead horse more.
Moving on.
Extremely spicy take. Abolish the reserve list. Reprint all of the duels on friggin' Secret Lair so I can stop playing the ugly ass, disgusting fucking white border ones.
I mean, that's
just get alphas, bro.
Yeah, just spend more money.
All right, so moving on to your guys' favorite segment, flavor text of the week. All right, so
that is a lie. That is not my favorite, but okay.
No one asked you.
All right.
Bro, you got ibuprofen. I gotta fucking prep for this.
Shut up. You guys are big old dummy boys. So the flavor text of the week will be a little different this time, because we're going to be doing 2 flavor texts. So one's going to be for our group here today, so us 4, and one is going to be for our fans, which you guys will, I think it's Discord or YouTube.
Oh, no. So if you guys go into the Discord and you go into the episode discussion channel and you put what you guys think the flavor text of the week is.
There's actually, I just created a separate channel for flavor text.
Oh, well, thanks for letting me know before we record. Anyways.
I told you this yesterday.
Wait, we're recording right now?
Anyways, if you put it in that channel, we will just pick someone at random. We'll use like a random wheel out of all the people who got the answer correct, and we'll reach out to you, get your address, and we'll send you something special, a little gift from us to you for getting through these episodes at the halfway point. Just thank you for being a
listening
part of this.
in.
If you can, use spoiler tags. And do we want to give like a time limit, like a week, or how long do you want to?
It's just gonna be 24 hours.
24 hours. Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, so you got to be quick and you got to watch the episode.
Y'all better be listening right now. If you're not,
all right. So
if you PM me, I'll send you a foil Yasharn.
Why? Because it's a bad spec you had.
Because I have 8 of them.
All right, so I'll be starting with the cast's flavor text.
Okay.
Okay.
No clues, but I think you guys should be kind of in the ballpark. All right. Our glorious infection has taken hold. Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite.
Okay, so this is a cEDH playable card. standard.
Fringe.
Fringe. Tainted
CEDH
strike.
Fringe
So it's got a Praetor. It's
strike. Oh my god.
it's got a quote.
That's a little beyond fringe.
It's got a quote from Elishnorn, so it's a Phyrexian related card. Is
Not Gataxian probe, because that's not really fringe.
what is say it again, please?
Our glorious infection has taken hold.
Noxious Revival.
Nope.
That's what I was
Triumph
thinking.
of the Hordes.
Nope.
No, I mean, our glorious infection has taken hold. Praetor's grasp.
Nope.
I also thought that, but not it.
Huh.
Our glorious infection has taken
Birthing
hold.
pod?
Nope.
It's
No.
fringe.
Birthing pod doesn't have flavor text.
Oh,
Nim
correct.
Death Mantle. I don't know.
Nope.
Oh, that's a good one.
is
It is an artifact.
Oh, so it's an artifact.
What are artifacts from that set? The whole set was
Contagion Clasp.
Literally everything.
fucking- artifacts.
Contagion Clasp.
Nope.
Is it new or is it old?
It's old, bro.
It was printed in Phyrexia, so
Newer
old.
Is it a land?
I just said it's an artifact.
Oh wait, yeah, you
It
did.
can be both.
Batter
It,
Skull.
it could be both. Nope.
Artifact land.
Said
Christ. Oh,
printed in New Phyrex.
no, Aether Vial wasn't printed there.
I have no idea. I wasn't around for Phyrexia, so
Really?
trying
That's
to
like
think.
when
What
I.
was it?
Oh, that was like the best time to play Standard.
Oh,
to be
Lord,
fair.
I'm
it's a
so-
fringe
It
playable
was a great time. to play.
Praetor artifact.
Artifact from probably New Phyrexia or something in that, or Mirrodin or whatever.
Live Wire Lash.
Scars of Mirrodin.
Scars. Scars of Mirrodin.
Or it's
Yeah,
either
that-
Scars
that-
or New Phyrexia.
that
It's
bar.
it's
Come
the
on,
block.
dude. That's so many cards.
It's the
Artifact.
it's an artifact.
What's a
Fringe
Flash
playable.
Rive.
No, it's CDH playable.
It draws a card.
It draws a card.
Maybe two cards.
Maybe two cards.
Draws a
And
card.
It's an artifact.
It's an artifact that draws
Oh
one
my
or
God.
two cards.
Ether Sworn Canonist with a Timna on board.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
flavor.
What?
It is also pauper playable.
Oh,
So it's a
common.
common. Okay.
Oh, it's a common artifact. Also,
It's one of my favorite cards.
think affinity. Think affinity.
Oh, is it? Or is it Spring? No, Springleaf Drum is Lorwyn.
No,
It's one of my favorite Magic cards,
it's not. It's
and I don't know this.
Mox Opal?
It's not the star, is it? Chromatic star?
Nope.
Is it Chromatic the other one?
Oh, it's
From Phyrexian block.
also played in Pauper. Draws a
Mox
card.
Opal's not
Porcelain Legionnaire. Hey, that was a good ass
No,
card
but
back in the day.
Yes,
that was
it
a good
was.
card.
Yeah, I feel
Classic
so-
Piker.
I feel
2
so
mana, 3/1
dumb.
with first strike. Hell
Hell yeah.
yes.
Oh, is it the relic?
Relic of
Progenitus.
Progenitals?
No, not progenitals. Coalition relic? No.
Nope.
It is a
that's not
relic.
the
It's the
right set.
relic. I know what it is. Oh shit.
I think you think you're wrong, bro.
No, I'm gonna. Can I Google MTG relics?
Nope.
Be like,
I mean, you could. You'll be wasting your time.
can I fucking scoop? I scoop.
I scoop.
I scoop.
It costs 2 mana.
2 CMC. And it draws you cards?
It draws a card.
Is it the fucking one of those artifacts that it's like crack it and if you pay black you can draw a card?
It is not a spellbound.
Okay.
Oh, it's not
That's
relic of
spellbound.
progenitus. And it's not coalition relic. Fuck. I don't know what it is. I think I have to scoop as well.
You have to scoop.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin. Since you're the last one, I'll be giving you another.
Hold on. Go on.
All right. When it hits the graveyard, it has a trigger that goes on the stack
Damn it, that's why I thought it was one of those things.
that draws you a card.
That goes on this tank that draws you.
It costs 2 mana. It's an artifact. It has Elish Norn.
Oh, Ichor Spring Wellspring. Ichor Wellspring.
Ichor Wellspring.
Bro, for
God,
the worst fucking person at this, I'm getting close. I need like 8 hands, but still.
Draws you, I should have known when you said maybe draws you too.
When you said draws 2
son
cards,
of
I
a
was
bitch.
like, fuck, it's one of those null rod casted things. It's
No,
the,
it was back in the day. It was fodder for Kodaltha Rebirth.
or
Like 3 goblins, sack an artifact,
goblins.
draw a card. Hell
Broom.
yeah.
Kirk Clan Ironworks.
Yep. Chase
Yes,
Yard.
sir.
And then the flavor text for the fans. Since y'all use Google, I'm on to you. This will be a very fringe card that is not CDH playable.
You freaking Scryfall fucks.
Scriball fucks.
Challenge, hard mode, don't go onto Scryfall.
They're never gonna get this card.
Fuck them.
Okay, so nothing comes together as easily as it comes apart. It's a zombie. That's your only clue.
Well, we don't need a clue.
No,
they
that's
do.
their only.
Oh, that's
clue.
their clue. It's a zombie. Nothing
Wait, we're
comes
recording?
together as easily as it comes apart. Okay, so we are about an hour and 14 minutes in, so let's maybe try to go through the rest of these ones a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Welcome to Sad Naus's 3-hour episode.
Or turn one Naus.
Yeah. So
And lose.
We are in the tank with this one. So Kevin, let's swing it right back to you for your second topic.
Well, I kind of wanted to bring up the topic and the idea of like how do cards retain their value over time, and how do we ensure that they, that you make the correct investments when buying the cards we need for decks, right? Like, how do you make sure you don't buy a stinker that drops, or like how do you make sure that you don't like miss out on buying a card that like, you're like, oh man, I missed it by 3 weeks, and now it's 3 times the price. This is, as we talked ad nauseum about tips you can do,
Damn,
right?
you took my line.
You didn't say it.
I think I'll give you a couple my personal easy tips, right? Like if it's reprinted, give it between 1 to 4-ish weeks after it's out. Usually it'll be at its low.
Yep.
You can refer to Modern Horizons 2 fetches. I would have been wrong.
Yep. And if
By
it's good,
$6.
if it's good, it'll go up from there. If it's not, it'll go down.
In about 3 weeks, look at the trajectory, right? Like I watched Foil Borderless Extended whatever bullshit beside you, and I watched it every friggin' hour for like days. And it hit $60, and I said, cool. When it hits 55, and then it hit 73, and I went, fuck. And I went to eBay, and I found them for 77, and I said, good enough. Buy. So how do you make sure that you don't get a card that's a stinker? It's hard, right? Like, I would say, like, don't buy cons fetches right now. But, like, it might be 2 years before they're reprinted, so maybe you should get them now. That's hard to say. I'll pass it off to Kian, see if he's got any thoughts, but, man, it's hard to know.
I think that's at least personally for me, that's really tough to answer because I'm not big into like finance. There's a spider crawling on her.
Jeez, why is there so many spiders in
Dude,
here
What
today?
is happening?
Dude, what is
Because we
happening?
made the
Fucking
blanket for it.
1-2s with reach, bro.
We made the blanket for it, and now it's all gone to shit. But so Kevin, your question was like to sum it up, how do we look at cards? Jesus Christ.
Here, I can intervene here. I think that
I got
Let me
distracted
save
by
you.
the
Let me
spider.
save you.
Now I'm off the train of thought.
How do cards retain their value over time, right? I think that something that I look at is it a win con, right? If it's a win con, it's probably going to retain its value. Something like Thassa's Oracle, Underworld Breach, cards that are playable in our format and you need them to play a certain archetype or play the game, that card is going to retain its value, right? Fast mana. Mox Amber is probably the most recent form of fast mana that I can think of. That, like, it's a free mana rock that nets 1. It's going to retain its value.
Bro, they played that card so safe. They were like, this one won't be broken. It was broken.
It was
so
broken.
like
good.
you got to look at a card and see what makes it playable and how good is it, right? Ledger Shredder is probably going to retain some value because it does what a broken card already does, which is Crom, and does it on a smaller body for less mana, and it's efficient, and efficient cards will retain their value.
I think unique cards also fit this much better, right? Like, how many cards do what Brain Freeze does?
Yep.
Brain Freeze.
If you don't, I have something to say about this as well. But mine's very brief, and then you guys can take it away. I just want to add this in there. So if you don't know where to begin about how to decide if a card you're about to buy is going to hold its value, look at general concepts like card density and the concentration among deck lists on the database. If you really don't know where to start and you're like, I think this card's really good, I want to try it in my deck, but I don't want to invest X amount of dollars, look at other formats that play it. Maybe there's a reason, like Goldspan Dragon, for example, was like $50 at one point, but it was because it was like played in every single deck in Standard, and like the cards, not cEDH playable, but it's EDH decent. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to buy that card when it's $50. Just look at other formats that it's being played in. Ledger Shredder is probably inflated because Standard's playing the hell out of it right now.
But other formats will still utilize it.
So
and certain cards...
check other deck lists. That's my advice, is just check other deck lists, see the card density and stuff like that.
Do your
Well,
research.
certain cards also just retain value. Eternal Witness can get printed 100 times. It's still going to be a couple $1 card because
Fucking
it's
counts,
just
though, dude.
so good. You know what I
Ring.
mean? Yeah,
They print it in every commander set. It's still over
Soul
$1.
Ring has definitely crept down like over the years, but it's
Every time they don't, though, it's like a $3 or $4 card. If they didn't print a Soul Ring in the next commander pack that comes out, and you get a bunch of decks without Soul Rings, the card's gonna be $3 again.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with Counterspell, man. That motherfucker is $2. They could literally be like, here, our secret lair, it's $0, and you get 1,000 Counterspells. It'd be $2 fucking dollars.
Probably be $3. I think, like, I don't know who touched on it. It was either Adam or Kevin. I think me especially. You look at card uniqueness. Like, is it like a secret lair card, and like, is it like special printing, like borderless, like, I know Double Masters, just rib for your pleasure foils. Like, those are obviously going to retain their value because there's only a couple of them in the world, and I think, yeah,
that is a good point. Borderless cards with specific arts,
cards that look cool. Dude, this is Pokemon.
I mean,
it's cardboard NFTs.
Yeah, those cards are definitely going to still retain their value just because they're unique in a specific type of way, whether it be art, whether it be card text, whether it be
flavor
unique
text.
Mechanics. Some flavor text is good, you know, like it can
Artwork
affect.
is a big one too.
Yes.
Artwork.
Judge Promo is one of those things where, like, will you ever see this again?
Exclusivity.
Yeah, exactly.
That can
Oh
also.
god, we're back on exclusivity again.
We're gatekeeping other card printings.
I think it definitely just can.
We're digging ourselves in a hole.
A lot of those things can affect how a card will retain its value. I think that, you know, I mean, what do you have to add?
Another thing that you can look at for determining like the value of a card is look at cards that pair well with it. If those cards are expensive or they're win cons, for example, that card's going to retain its value. If it's a direct support piece or combo piece with it, it's pretty safe to assume that if it's in the same strategy, it's going to hold the same value as that card. If your Underworld Breach is holding good value, your Brain Freeze is going to hold good value, for example.
And I think that brings us to what you want to talk about next, Sam, is like how do you evaluate cards? I think you want to like propose a question.
We've pretty much determined how, like we've talked about that in detail. I like to evaluate cards based on, like I said, what they work with. If a card is the same thing, if it does the same thing as another card that's already being played and it's just more efficient, obviously that's going to be a good card. I'm pretty much, I think I've pretty much touched base on how I evaluate cards. I don't really have a whole lot to add to that.
Well, I think it's like when you evaluate.
We've gone in a much bigger full circle than I thought we were gonna, which is good. Good discussion, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think with new cards and new sets, you just be smart and try to time it and try to look at when cards, like you guys said, like there's that 1 to 4 week window. It's usually at the 2 week mark that you're going to see a card really hit its low point. And try to just be aware of that and try to get good deals where you can. Yeah. Try to, you know, look at, especially if they're mechanically new cards from new sets, like not reprints. You got to try to really determine how playable a card is and get on Reddit, get in the community.
I was going to say just that.
Yeah, like start seeing what the conversations are about. As soon as Ledger Shredder was spoiled, people are like, yo.
Yeah, the cEDH Reddit was popping.
Baby Crom.
This card is kind of good. Yeah, exactly.
Straight up, like, two hard tips. Adam was straight up like leaning into it. Go talk to people, like whether it's like, you know, Discords where with decks you already run. Or
Sad Naus Discord.
Go, you know, talk to, like, hey, I play TNT. I went to the Paradox Discord, right? Like, go ask them, like, hey, card just dropped. Is it good? And they'll be like, fire emoji or garbage emoji, right? Like, they're usually going to be right. People that play very seriously know a lot better than, like, just random fucking finance guys. 2, check deck lists, man. Like, if a modern PTQ just dropped and, like, a card is showing up like crazy, or, like, if Pioneer just dropped and Winota is dumpstering people, Lamau get fucking banned. Like, just look and be like, shit, this card's got, like, 6 hours before it spikes. Do I need it and do I want it? So, just 2 quick tips for me.
Yeah, I think that those are all good things. Kian, do you want to go through, like, something a little fun? A little bit more of a... A game?
A game. I like games.
As long as our pants are staying on.
That's the worst type of game.
Wait, exactly. You guys have your pants on?
Wait, what? I mean, I can't stay under the table, but...
Check our OnlyFans sad nudes. We're going to have strip cEDH.
Yeah.
Sad nudes.
It's, instead of rip it or flip it, we're going to play rip it and strip it.
Rip it or strip it.
See, exactly. Rip for your pleasure.
All right, what are we
Texture
moving
Texture
on
flows.
to, Adam?
All
What
right.
you got?
So I got something. So what staples would I buy on a limited budget? So let's say I have like a $500 budget. Like what staples would I buy as like a new player to the format? Like so cEDH decks mostly run like the same shell of cards, and most of the unique cards are going to be strategy specific. So like Dockside Loops, you have like Cloudstone Curio. Ishai, you have like Auric Salvagers. Same with Razakats. You know, like it's all basically one shell with like Force of Will, blah blah blah. But you have those unique strategy specific cards. So I'll give an easy example because I'm a Grixis player, so I'm gonna start with Grixis Turbo Naus. So what I would buy off of like $500, I would focus on what wins me the game. So Thoracle plus the 2 Consult, so Consult, Tainted Pact, and then add Naus. So I would focus on cards that ramp me. If I could afford Fast Mana, I would, but I wouldn't cash out for like a Wheel of Fortune or like a Mana Crypt right away.
You get a Mana Crypt and a Grim Monolith, and you're at $500.
Yeah, so I'd focus on like more cards. Like, to be fair, Grixis is kind of expensive to get into, but not really, because you have like the counter spells, which are cheap and effective, both monetarily and in the game. And then you also have cards like Adnos. It's like $10.
Yeah.
So yeah, just cards that win you the game, in my opinion.
Because they feel good when you have the real one and not a proxy or a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Well, if I had $500 right now and I just saw a Super Fire Masters set come out that reprinted a bunch of staples for EDH or cEDH, I would buy all of the staples I need in my respective strategy that did not get reprinted, and I would buy them right now. And then I would wait a couple more weeks, and I would buy any that did get reprinted, like Dockside, and wait till it bottoms out, and I would buy it then. That's what I would do with my $500. I'd wait for a Masters set, personally.
I think if I was a player getting into the game and like there's a deck I want to play or I want to get into cEDH as a whole and I had $500, the first thing that I would buy, contradictory to what you said, would just be straight up Fast Mana. I think that when it comes to cEDH, you're looking at cards that specifically always hold their value. When you look at Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Opal, Mopal, the Moxes, right? They all stay around the same price. It'll get reprinted. It'll drop 10, maybe $20 at most, and then it goes right back up.
Dude, if anything, it creeps up in price. I remember when Mana Vaults were fucking $15.
I know. Right now, I just missed out on buying
All
a
right,
foil.
old head.
Dude, it's a reprintable card.
Yeah, foil borderless Mana Vault was like $80 yesterday. Now it's $115. It's like, what the fuck? I just like
Box topper?
Yeah, so like if I had $500, I would get that shit out of the way. Like get my Fast Mana and spend all of it on that because almost every single deck in the format plays it. If you're not on stacks and you're not on green, you're going to be playing Fast Mana. And even a lot of green decks still run Fast Mana because it's just that good.
Yeah, dude, I run Fast Mana and Pig.
Yeah, Fast Mana is good. So that's what I would do. Like if I had $500 and my budget was limited and it was like, what am I going to spend to get into cEDH? Bro, get that. I remember the first card I bought that like, I was like, this is cEDH, was like when I had my Sliver deck. I kind of talked about like it was the first deck I brought to competitive. I got a Mana Crypt and I paid $75 from a buddy who's like, I got 2, I'll give you this one for half off. And I was fucking ecstatic and I have never regretted that purchase. Like having like those cards are what take a casual deck to the next level because now you can do your thing faster.
Well, they really do. It kind of ruins my decks in my like casual play groups,
Straight
like with
up.
my homies, because like I play all the fast rocks, even though I'm playing Pirate Tribal, and all my friends are like, "Dude, stop! You win like every game."
You're just going in cEDH. Like honestly, a lot of what we're doing is casual combos and casual stuff. The problem is that we're just doing it so much faster than everybody else,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
Like going through an infinite Dockside loop is pretty fun. If I did that in casual, it'd be really cool. Just doing it on turn 2 is a little fast. You know what I mean?
It's a little sad.
Fast Mana will take you to that next level, and I think you can take an existing casual deck and get it pretty close to cEDH if you upgrade your cards in that regard.
That's
So-
fair. I mean, fair point. Pretty tough to argue with logic like that.
I'm a pretty logical guy. Like
Sam,
you might be the most financially responsible, but I'm the most I was gonna say emotionally logical, but those two words don't mix well together. What would you do, Kevin, if you had like $500? How would you spend it in this format?
So, Kian said new player?
Yep.
Okay, I'll give 2 answers, as I do. I never like to stick to one thing because I fucking never had to make up my mind. New player, right? You're like, I want to play cEDH. I have a deck. I want to upgrade it, right? I think that's a simple start.
That's usually the start. Is
Very rarely are you starting from nothing.
Yeah.
So what I would do...
like to start with Blue Farm because I've heard it's the best deck in the format. Okay, give me $15,000.
Buy a Crom. Step one, right? Buy your commanders, and personally, buy them in foil. That's obviously Nagila's $100 foil and like $1 non-foil. It's a difference, right? But like Thrasios is like $20 versus like $3. I like having the cool commanders in foil. That's my personal thing.
They see them all the time.
Exactly. They're the cards that are literally always going to be there, whether you cast them or not. For me, like when I buy new decks, when I'm really starting out, I do two things. I do some of the heavy hitters, like Adam talks about, because a lot of the heavy hitters are reserve list, and you're going to have to get them out of the way. And it gets you over that mental hump of being like, wow, this deck's expensive. When you buy half of it on 2 cards, it's not so bad anymore.
And then it feels better when you're buying the rest of the cards, and they're like $10,
Correct.
$7, $15,
That's step 2. I like to seriously, if you want to feel good about a deck you're going to start, sort your shit on Moxfield by cheapest. Buy everything under $1. Go to TCG Direct and just fucking slam it. You're like, bro, I just bought 37 cards and it cost me $9. It feels great. And then later on, I'll be like, ooh, now I'll buy every card under $5. And then you do that, and you're like, cool, I've now owned 59 of my cards, but I've only bought 10% of the deck's like monetary value.
That's almost a whole deck right there.
I do
60
do
cards.
that. Like, that's funny that you bring that up because that is like how I build decks. I remember when I first built Winota, I was like, what's every card under $10? And I hit buy. And I was like, oh, I have 83 cards. That's crazy. I'm only 17 cards away from the deck being built. Who would have thought that, like, $300 would have got me that far, and it does.
With
and that's,
$500, goddamn, you can legit buy like 90 cards in most decks. So they don't in 5 colors.
Unless you're playing Blue Farm, then you can't.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain cards that are going to push your price point up, and especially like dual lands and stuff like that. You can get by without those, though. We know plenty of people who play really good cEDH decks that don't run cards upwards of $1,000 that don't really increase your win percentage, right? Like, how really good is a dual land when you can get a shock for $20?
Yeah, pro tip.
If you're not on Adnos, like, there's not... Just play Shocks. Like, just play Shocks. If you're not playing Adnos, just play Shocks.
Or, honestly, even, like, I hate to say tapped duels, but, like, in a slow enough deck, they're not fucking worthless, right? Like, play Yorn. He runs snow duels.
Or run more basics. They're fetchable, and they come into play.
Yeah, gives you a
untapped.
reason to play Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Triomes.
Stuff like that. All that stuff.
Gives you a reason to play Blood Moon, he says.
Or back to basics.
No, thank you.
No, I think that's like all really good, like, advice for people. Like, if you're gonna, like, what it's not really advice, it's what we would spend money on, right?
That's literally what I do.
If I could go back and do it again, I'd spend my first $500 on all the rocks, like, that's just what I would do again.
Yeah.
Because, like, that will easily take my deck up. And like, if you would go back, you'd probably still be playing Grixis Turbo Naus because...
Now that I think about it, I think that's what I did. I think Mana Crypt and Grim Monolith were 2 of my first, like, all right, I'm just going to do it.
Even the Grim Monolith I'd hold off on. I think it's the bad rock out of all the fast mana. But, like...
I was playing Maelstrom Wanderer at the time, man.
Are you telling me that a card that makes a colorless version of Lotus Petal that you can't play on turn 1 is bad? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, when I first was building Gitrog, like, that's what I did. I said, yo, this sucks balls, give me a Bayou, give me a Bazaar, give me a fucking Cradle, and I just bought them. I mean, it sucked, but once I got them out of the way, the deck was much more achievable.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could wait on the rest of them, right? Because reserve list, if you wait, sometimes you're in a bad boat. But, like, sure, you wait on a fetch, like, whatever, it's $5 more 2 months later. Like, that's fine.
Well, and speaking on, pricing, after you spent that $500, well, what do you do then, right? So my next topic is proxying and when it's appropriate. What are your guys' views on proxying and how does it help make the format more affordable? What do we recommend for individuals who are listening and aren't comfortable playing with them? If some people aren't into proxying, what are some alternatives to some staples or some cards that we know that exist out there? But personally, for me, I think proxying is always appropriate. And I think it's especially appropriate when you are on a budget and you can't afford everything, right? I think you should always strive to build the deck as best as you can with what you can afford. But, like, if you're a new player or someone who has a $500 budget and you bought all your mana rocks, what are you going to do now when you need to get, some other cards to play the deck? Like, just proxy it up.
Go to Kinko's, spend $5 on ink.
Kinko's, I don't think even exists anymore. I think it's just
Okay,
FedEx.
it's just an
FedEx.
example.
It's just FedEx office.
Oh, you boomer.
Your age is showing.
My age is definitely showing. I hit 30 this past year, so leave me alone.
I'm sorry.
I have a few left to go until then. But no, I think that proxying should, like, we kind of talked about it a lot in our last episode, but I think here in the financial episode it's a little bit more appropriate to discuss. I think that, like, when it comes to pricing, like, if you want to try a deck before you buy a deck, proxy it, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to work on it and just try to get the cards you can a piece at a time, proxy it until you can afford each piece. I think that's totally appropriate and totally something that you should be comfortable with.
Yeah,
but
especially with cards you're not 100% sure if you want to play. Like, if they're like flex spots, or you're like, I don't really know if I like this deck. Yeah, do not go all in on a deck if you're not, like, confident you like it.
Yeah, don't be like Spencer and spend thousands of dollars building Kenrith and then trading it before it's even finished to get a time twister.
I mean, that's a once in a lifetime type of thing. He
yeah.
made out on that trade.
No,
like,
it's
I'd
just-
have done the same thing.
It's just funny to me.
He has bought and dropped at least 2 almost completely built cEDH decks in a row.
I've done the same thing. I haven't played Winota in months, and I spent a lot of money on her.
Imagine playing other decks.
I played Blue Farm for like 2.5 years, man. I don't do anything else.
Yeah, you guys are just on the one deck.
Then
And then for, like, what I recommend for individuals who aren't comfortable playing them or can't play them, if your certain LGS doesn't allow it, I think there's a lot of cards that you can play something different that does something very similar, right? So, like, when it comes to, like, mana rocks, like, you can't get a Mox Diamond, that's whatever. There are free rocks that you can still play that still do things, you know? There's, what's the mana rock? I hate that I don't know this off the top of my head, but you can tap it to add a colorless, a charge counter on it, or you can...
Jeweled Amulet?
Yeah, like, stuff like that is playable in cEDH, and you can make it work on a budget, right? Also, like, if you can't afford a wheel, you know...
Coalition Relic.
No, I think you were... Jeweled Amulet was...
Jeweled
right.
Amulet was,
yeah.
It doesn't tap for color.
Yeah, you
Coalition
can tap it
Relic.
to add a charge counter on it, and it's a colorless charge counter, or
Okay.
you can tap it to add a color of any mana if you tap a mana to tap it.
Right, I thought you were... I thought you... Never mind.
Yeah,
It's
you don't know
not,
what I'm
it's
thinking.
not... I do know what you're thinking.
Anyways, like, if you can't afford a wheel, Windfall exists and is only $3. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's alternatives to a lot of these cards that you can get out there that'll still take your deck to the next level, that you don't need to be spending $600, $700 on a card to get there.
Just don't play wheels.
Or just don't play wheels. There is a huge subset of the community.
There
that-
are budget brews for sure. You could definitely budget brew cEDH.
Speaking of budget,
Ton of content creators for it.
Yeah.
speaking of budget brews, we'll plug our boy Timmy T1000 with cEDH budget brews, and
Budget
then
brews.
also one of our new friends from the Tryhards, who they do competitive Pauper Commander. So it's like cEDH but Pauper Commander. Yeah. So, like, there's budget alternatives that you can still get your competitive fix if you are in a place where proxying isn't allowed or that you can't play it.
Yeah.
You know. What do you guys like? Do you guys have some input on proxying?
Legalize
reviews?
proxying. That's all I have to say.
Legalize.
You know how
Legalize
many more
proxies.
people go to Command Fest if you can play like X number of proxies?
And actually, like, you can
you're
go to,
going there to play competitive EDH most times.
it's
or most
actually
players.
changed now.
They're
So you
starting
can
to do
you
it,
can
yeah.
go to Command Fest and play with proxied decks as long as you're in the free to play section. If you try to play for tickets in the paid section, they're going to ask you not to play with proxies. But like, we went and we were playing with Power and Tyler from Play to Win and Rebel and all these people, and everybody's got their proxy decks out playing with proxies, and we're calling judges over to make judge calls on games and stuff. Nobody cares as long as you're in that free to play section. So
I remember I was playing with duels, and the judge came over like, "Are those dual lands?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're judge, bro. Like, why are you surprised about
He's
dual
like, "I can't believe you're
lands at a
playing dual
commander
lands."
tournament?"
Yeah.
What?
But it was yeah, I think that that mindset is changing. I think it's changing in the community more than anything.
I think things are getting more expensive, so people have to make that decision.
Like, wait, I can just go to FedEx and
That's
spend
definitely
$16
not-
instead of
not a
16,000?
Correct. I mean, yeah, cards are getting more expensive, but people are like, I don't want a proxy. Like, I want to own the cards, and I think you should own the cards too. Yeah. And then 3 years later, they're like, how much is a fucking how much that shit cost? Yeah, I'm on proxies. You know what? I've always been a proxy fan.
I think that we've seen that mentality shift too, like in person sometimes, where it's like someone's been like, no, and then like now you're getting into the game more and you're building more decks than the one deck you had, and it's like,
All right, hear me out. WotC starts recognizing cEDH as a format. We get our own
Based.
ban list and they allow proxies at sanctioned events. How cool would that be?
If we get our own ban, well, a lot of people don't want their own ban list because then they're just gonna start banning shit.
Dorkhold,
Yeah,
Darkside.
basically.
Okay, that's fair.
To include variants. I don't like. I think that WotC like can acknowledge like. I think what they have done is acknowledge like playtest cards in tournaments.
Dude, they absolutely can never, ever in their entire life acknowledge the fact that we're allowed to make our own cards. That would open them up to people just straight up duplicating their cards.
Well, what I'm saying is like you've heard of playtest cards because you're a judge. You have to know what they are,
Yes.
right? So like as long as a judge has provided you with a version of a card, it can be a playtest card as long as it's returned at the end of the night to the judge. So it's not a card you own, and it's not provided to be a replica of a Magic card, which is what they consider proxies to be. It is meant to be a card that has the same mechanical ability that looks nothing like a Magic card.
It is
so
a
like,
judge-issued replacement, which is an interesting loophole they figured out.
yeah, so like you'll see people like with dockside or not docksides, but like people with like dual hands that are like neon green in tournaments because they have to look different. But it gets around that loophole, and I think that like WotC's kind of turned a blind eye to it because they're saying like we know that we can't print these cards for you to make them cheaper, so here's an alternative that
We just
gets
won't
it there.
punish the people that are wink, wink. You know, you figured out a cool loophole. Cool, keep using it. We're not going to punish you, but publicly they're still going to say you can't proxy. Proxying's bad.
Well, hasn't also don't they like allow certain proxy rulings for like vintage or legacy tournaments where they say like you can have 5 proxies in your deck because of certain price points for those tournaments? I think I've seen that before at like
not saying
Not legacy.
I thought it was like something that existed
Vintage,
during like
though.
It's not
Maybe I could see vintage.
like
vintage.
SCG or Channel
I
Fireball.
think they were
events.
non-sanctioned though.
SCGs are. They did a
Really?
vintage one, yeah.
Are they allowed proxies?
Proxies.
Quotes. Quotation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I just think that like I don't know. I think that I wish it would get more recognized in sanctioned events, like specifically for sanctioned events. You know what I mean? Like
That's what I said. Like the reserve list bones us on sanctioned events because, dude, you know how many people, you know how many casual players would watch competitive EDH? It'd be so cool. Like the first time you watch it, you're like, "Yo, I don't know what's going on, but this is gas. That dude's going fast. He has like 30 cards in the stack."
It's turn 2.
It's turn 2.
His
What's going
opponents
on
are
here?
picking up their cards. I don't know what's going on anymore, man.
It's
Yeah.
exciting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well, I think that we kind of covered a whole lot, and we have been talking for a while, like an hour and 50 minutes now at this point. So I think that we can kind of end the episode here. So I think that this was a topic that isn't discussed enough in the community, specifically like financials and cEDH. Oh shit! I'm
We
almost
forgot the
forgetting.
segment.
I almost
He
forgetting.
didn't pay for his
They
fish.
didn't pay for fish.
Okay. We
Oh,
might.
this
do-
is my first feed the fish. Let's
yeah.
go. I don't even know
So
what's going on right
let's
now.
do this one. We'll do it. Yeah, we got time. Okay.
You got 10 minutes.
Yep, we got
Time
more.
and rounds.
Yeah, we got more
Players-
than 10 minutes. But anyways, this week's Feeding the Fish will be on cards that we think are financially undervalued. For those of you guys that don't know what Feeding the Fish is, everybody has 2 minutes to say a card that they think is normally underplayed or undervalued. This time, it's a card that's underpriced. And you have to defend your choice why you think it's underpriced. You got 2 minutes. We won't talk during that 2 minutes, and you'll get to say your piece. After that, we have 3 minutes to say why we either agree with you or why the hell you're fucking wrong. So,
And you get no input.
Yeah,
this is,
you
this
don't
is
get
a
to
pitch,
respond.
and then I'll listen.
for this one, we're going to do cards that we think are financially underpriced. So you got 2 minutes to defend and explain why you think a card should be priced higher, and then we'll tell you why you're wrong or why you're right. So who would like to start?
Not I.
Okay. I can go first.
I don't have a card prepared, so I gotta
gotta
rack
do
my
some
brain
research.
You're
right
gonna
now.
sit there
I gotta-
like you're
I gotta rack
actually
my brain right now.
terrible at. God, what should I think of?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Basic Islands. All right, those are undervalued. They're one of the best cards in the game.
Ban Basic
Okay,
Islands.
Adam, you're gonna start us.
Yeah, let me just get my card pulled up here on TCG Player so that I can give you guys the price.
Okay.
But you can start the clock now.
And clock.
Okay, so a card that I think is underpriced in this format is Birgi, God of Storytelling. Birgi is a card that I think, for one, is a really gas commander, and for two, has so much value in so many different decks that play them, specifically Storm decks and decks that are trying to accrue multiple spells. I guess that's also considered Storm, but like the value that it adds for just playing the game is not incremental. It's huge. For those of you that don't know, Birgi says whenever you cast a spell, you get to add 1 red until end of turn. Birgi's like $3 right now. And I think that it's a 3-mana spell that continuously adds you card. It's basically card advantage, a mana advantage every time that you just play the game like you normally would. Not only that, but the flip side of Bergie, you can discard a card and exile the top 2 and play those cards this turn. It is card advantage. You're 2 for 1ing or 1 for 2ing yourself instead of 2 for 1ing yourself, right? And it just has so much different playability, and it has what's the word I'm looking for? Not diversity, but it's you can use it multiple different ways. What? Flexibility, sure. You can speak. I'm not gonna tell you can't speak when I'm asking for
rules.
But
shut up, Judge.
Oh yeah, and then Bergie also says creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once.
Who cares?
I don't know what that means. I don't even know what boast is as a mechanic. But
if it deals damage, you get to activate the boast ability, and sometimes the boast ability.
Or is it just attacking?
Cool.
I think it's just attacking.
Is it? I thought it was when they deal damage.
Either
it's
way,
a bad
pretty
mechanic.
sure.
Because the bull has
Not a good mechanic.
Either way, it has multiple different mechanics on the same card, and I think that is what makes it broken. So I think that this card's undervalued. Like at $3, dude, it should be worth way more, at least 10.
All right, I have my card.
Okay. So time, we get 3 minutes to roast him. I accidentally put 3 hours on here, so allow me to fix that real quick. Okay. Who would like to open on their cheek clapping?
I actually agree with him, so not me. I also think that card's pretty
I'll start.
good.
Bergie is a great card. Kian, I think you can agree with me. You've played it. You like it.
Yeah, I'm aboard the Bergie train. I completely agree. Card's gas.
Kark is 100% on it too. Yeah. Local player. He's it's gas. Every time he's casted, he fucking dumps at us. Is Bergie a good card? Yes. Both sides I think are pretty playable. Obviously the front side's better. Is it underpriced? Bro, Kaldheim fucking sucks. It's a standard set that no one wants to fucking play. It's a random-ass legendary that doesn't see anything but competitive play because it's kind of dog shit for casuals. That card is cheap. It's in the dumpster for a reason. It's going to stay there for a fucking reason. It's never going to get played in Modern. It's never going to get played in Pioneer. It's never going to get fucking played in Legacy. It is a good card in specifically Storm cEDH decks, which means it's going to cost $2.75 for a foil in 6 years. It is a shit card. Do not pick it up.
7 years, though, it's going to pass through.
We're all about that long game. Yeah.
I don't have any roasts for you, man. Sorry.
I think it's a good pick for underplayed card.
Yep.
Underpriced card. Bad.
Bad pick.
It's like Dan, which is bad.
I think it's at least $7.
That means it's underpriced.
I think it's at least $7.
All right,
I don't
have my
see it.
card. It's probably already been said before.
So I think our roast is done then.
I think
Yeah, I
the
think our
roast
roast
is
is-
concluded.
Pretty
I have
light
a card
roast.
finally picked out in my brain.
Okay, Sam, timer on the clock.
Collector Oof. I don't really need to say a whole lot about this. It is a very strong stacks piece. That when was the last printing of it? 2019.
It just got a reprint in a secret layer, but it's only been printed in Modern Horizons 1.
which was 2019, right, or 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a while ago, but the card's been like $7 like this whole time.
For current reference, the as low as is lightly played for $4.25.
Yeah, so the card's $4, and it literally hoses like every Turbo Naus deck for, in certain situations, obviously, but like it turns off all rocks in cEDH. Like it's probably, in my opinion, one of the most oppressive stacks pieces in the format as far as hosing these. I don't give a shit what you're doing. I'm just here to go, do my strategy, get it out of the way, win the game. It completely hoses these decks, and I think at $4, the card is highly undervalued. I have so many of this card because they're $4. Like it's insane. The card should be at least $10 in my opinion.
You got 49 more seconds.
49 more seconds. I don't need to say a whole lot more than
Time
that.
conceded.
The card is gas and $4.
Who would like
Collector
to open?
Oof.
I'll open.
Add 3 minutes on the
Okay,
clock.
don't roast me on it being green. Not allowed.
No. So,
Green
I mean,
color, bro.
Collector Oof is a good card, right? But when you look at Collector Oof's comparables, what makes you think that Collector Oof should be more expensive? The only card that's really comparable that's expensive is Null Rod. And that's because Null Rod is...
Stoney's like $5.
Stoney's $4 as well. Like Null Rod is on the reserve list, so yeah, that card's really overvalued. But this effect exists on a lot of cards, and they're not that expensive. I mean, Stony Silence is $4, Collector Oof is $4. What other type of shut
I
down.
mean, green is a
Whoa,
strong.
whoa.
I don't get to defend. All right,
No, you can suck at.
Yeah.
I gotta remember all this shit too.
So,
You don't get a rebuttal.
You made your sales pitch. Now it's time for the cheek
yeah.
open.
So, I mean, I like Collector Oof. I think it's a really good card. I think it's priced, though, directly where it needs to be priced. I mean,
I think I'm the oofiest person here. I don't think anyone's gonna.
yeah, every time you walk in the room, I go, oof.
Straight up, bro. Green Sun Zenith, oof.
Oof.
Finale, oof. Chord, oof. Eldritch Evolution, Thassa's Oracle. But oof sometimes. Straight up, oof is a disgusting card. It is Null Rod. It's better than Null Rod. A, because green's the best color. BT dubs. Second, you can tutor that motherfucker out way easier. Is it overpriced or underpriced? Fuck no. I've been watching foil oofs for literally years. And I was like, it's stuck at $30. And then years later, I was like, $30.50. And I kept looking and I was like, bro, this shit's never changing. I'm just going to fucking buy it. And I bought one. And you know how much has gone up? It hasn't.
It's $30.80.
It's $30. I told you. Oof is, people recognized immediately. Holy shit, this is a 2-2 null rod. Yeah. And then it just rocked at $5 and hasn't fucking moved.
Bro, it's a bear.
It's a bear. It's a great card. I love Oof. I think Oof should be played in every fucking green deck that isn't, I don't know, like some YOLO decks.
Debatable.
Bro, I play Oof and Frog. You know how many times you guys, well, I don't win a lot, but goddamn it works when I play it.
I love it when you overpay for your tutors and then we're like, just get Oof. You're like, oh, I paid $7 for this Green Sun Zenith and I should have just got Oof instead.
It scares people sometimes. You're like, X equals 6, and they're like, what's he getting at 6?
No, because
And you're like,
everybody
Oof.
knows what you're getting anyways. You're getting Oof to shut off all the fucking treasure.
Dude, not always, bro. Oh, wait, Oof your card? Underpriced? Absolutely not.
I don't have anything to say. I think that it's not underpriced. Everything's $4. It's symmetrical.
All right.
Concede
I'll
your
see
time.
y'all.
all I gotta
I'll
say.
see y'all in 2 years when the card is $8.
Bro, I'll see
bro,
you in
alright.
fucking 4 years when the card is $3 because it got reprinted again.
Sam just wants
But
to
the
sell his
foil- but
Oofs
the
at a
foil
higher
will still be
price. than
$30.
he
Yeah.
wants.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Alright,
maybe,
Kian,
maybe.
you can shoot it or me.
You can go, Kev.
I got a spicy one for you boys. Time on clock.
Yeah? What is it?
Dramatic pause. Thought Lash.
Oh, my God.
Let me. Okay. Why it's underpriced?
Because
Is
I
the
own
card-
12 copies.
For reference, I own 14 copies. So, is the card super strong? No. I don't think it's super strong, but I think it is playable in specifically Falco and in Elsha, right? The card has been, it spiked previously to like $38, and then it went down in price because people realized it was kind of a false spec. However, I think that with time, more commanders with the you may peek at the top card, you can cast the top card of your deck, right? They're going to get printed again. I say your fucking looks. Don't pick, collector oof. I'm going spicy, bro. Don't give me your bitch looks. So, Thought Lash is a 1-card win condition in both Falco and in Elsha. It's a little pricey, don't get me wrong, but you're playing Bant, right? You're playing fucking Jeskai. Bad colors, unless you're in fucking Bird Jeskai. I think that 1-card win conditions are super strong, even if they're expensive. I've played enough fucking Nagila to know that when you have a 1-card win condition with your commander, it's super good. And for those who don't know how it works, you play Thought Lash, you exile, and every time you exile, you keep looking at the top card until you find Thassa's Oracle. You cast the Thassa's Oracle off the top of your deck, and then you keep exiling, and they can't respond to it. Then you have a Thassa's Oracle ETB with no library left over, bada boom, bada bing. You pretty good chance you win, right? So, like, if it resolves, the interaction window is super, super narrow and very hard to deal with because it's just fucking Thoracle, except you play a big dumb enchantment. Enchantments are hard to counter. You got Swan Song and, like, Force. That's not a lot of answers. There's not a lot of things that hit it. Abrupt Decay doesn't hit it. Is it the strongest card? No. Is it objectively a reserve list card that is a 1-card win condition with 2 current commanders that will get better as more of those commanders get printed? Yes. Underpriced, 100%. It'll be $100 in 2 years. Time on clock. Done.
Yeah.
All right, for reference, it's
$14.
$14.
Yeah, and I think it's overpriced.
I think it is overpriced.
I think the best part of Thought Lash is the 0 ability, where you can pay 0 and prevent 1 damage that was dealt to you this turn. Like, honestly, like, cool. It's really good with Elsha and it's really good with Falco. Guess what? Those decks win in way better ways with way better cards.
You're in red for Breach. Why do you need this?
It's also you need to have 6 mana available to you the turn you want to go off, because if you put Thought Lash on the board, despite what you're saying, there's a lot of enchantment removal in the game, specifically in white and specifically in green. So, like, a lot of those decks are playing that, especially with the prevalence of cards like Cathar Commando and things like that. Like, as those cards get more popular, no one's going to let this thing stick around, in time for that. And I just don't think, I think it's too much mana, 6 mana. You have to have 4 mana for the Thought Lash and 2 mana for the Thoracle. And you need to have your commander out. And it's really easily interrupted because you can just kill your commander. It's so reliant on that. And it's just, cool. If you can drop a Silence and a Thought Lash and win the game, by all means, sure. But
Good job, bro. You earned it.
Yeah, there's other combos that can do the same thing. I think the appeal is that it's a reserve list card. If it wasn't for that, this card would be
pennies. Yeah, it'd be 50
pennies.
cents.
Yeah. I mean, you guys can go on if you have anything else you want to add.
Sam, do you have anything?
So like Adam kind of touched on it, but like how sure are you? How small is this window?
How crazy to ask him a question
Kevin,
when he can't respond.
Yeah, how dare you?
Kevin,
There's a silence resolve.
when this comes out, I would like to hear about how small this window is for interaction, because there's several ways that you can interact with a card like this. So I would like to know that.
Yeah, so
I would like to point
hey,
out.
I'm not done roasting you, buddy. Put the timer back. I get 3 more minutes. Skid it. I don't have anything. No, I'm just like Adam touched on. It's 6 mana, and like Spell Pierce hits it. There's multiple other counters to your point that hit it.
Any non-creature counter. There's a lot more than just four like any.
And to actually win the game, you need 4 blue. And in 4 blue in a deck that in cEDH you want compact win cons. 4 of a specific pip is a lot. Especially there's no blue ritual. Like I can't just blue ritual Thought Lash Thoracle win.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't think of that. 4 blue.
4 blue
to win. Yeah.
In the combo.
It's good in mono blue. I guess like Urza with Reality Chip, Thought Lash might be pretty good in there.
And like I'll give you its niche, and it can be used to some effect in like the correct deck, but I don't like for $14. I think that's a good price, if not overpriced.
Okay, let's go right into Kian, and then let's end this episode.
Okay, so
don't wait for him to put the time. Just start.
For my card that is criminally underpriced is Mnemonic Betrayal. I think Mnemonic Betrayal it's only $5 right now. So all right, there's so many functions of this card. It's a win con. It's a backup. You can literally cheese people out by valuing out their pieces from their bin, like permanents. You can win. You can do breach loops and wheels to win the game. I don't know what else I need to say about this card. Like, it's good. I think that a lot of people don't really value it highly. It's good in collation. It's good in unison with like Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact, because you already run Praetor's Grasp. This is another backup spell. So if you exile your Praetor's Grasp or your Thassa's Oracle, you still have an opportunity to win the game. So, yeah. That's all I got.
Conceding time?
It's, yeah.
Do you want to go, Kevin?
3 minutes, boys.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I just agree with you. I love that card. You know I love that card.
It's so gas.
There are so many games where it's like, all right, my opponent just intuitioned, and I have this Mnemonic Betrayal in my hand. I'm totally going to use this in either pile. And another thing that I really like about the card is it pairs well with, every once in a while, especially in Blue Farm, you'll open up a hand that's got like a bunch of counter magic and a bunch of interaction. Not a whole lot of gas, but it's got a Mnemonic Betrayal, or you draw into it. And so your counter spells kind of feed the Mnemonic Betrayal in the sense that if you're stopping a serious threat, well, guess what? When you cast that Mnemonic Betrayal, you get that threat. Chances are it's in a graveyard. So being able to use your opponent's stuff that they want to see, especially when it's such a breach-heavy, treasure-heavy, Turbo Naus-heavy like format, they're pretty much every pot of 4, there's someone on Ad Naus strategies, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all playing a lot of the same cards that you can also benefit from. They put them in their graveyard. Guess what? You get them. You got a wheel in your hand, and you got a Mnemonic Betrayal coming up, or you draw into it, or it's already in your hand. Wheel, Mnemonic Betrayal, like, it's gas, man. I just complements so many cards that are already in the format, in my opinion.
You guys are both wrong. This card is not underpriced whatsoever. The only argument for this card being underpriced is that it's only been printed in one set. You can call it a one-card win condition all you want, but no card is a win condition that relies on your opponents to assemble it for you.
But I don't think he's saying it's a one-card win condition. I think he's saying that it has multiple functions, and this says that you can also hose somebody out of their
I'll split the difference. I think that the Blue Farm players are right. I played it momentarily when I played Tevish Bug. It's a good card. It's a solid card. It's a goofy Yawgmoth's Will. Is it a playable card? Yeah, I think it's fucking good. I think it's a weird, different Yogg's Will. Is it underpriced? It's a mythic. That's good on Kian's point. It's from an extremely popular and super open set. That's bad for his point. It is in a set with fucking Shocklands, which for some goddamn reason are like $27 a piece on some of the
You print them in like 3 years or something.
I know, but my point is that set only has so much money in it. A lot of it's going to Shocks. Yes, it's a mythic. And to back the point up, I'm looking at a year back, right? On July 21, this shit was $22 foil, $4 regular. It is currently $15 foil, $4 regular. The non-foil is flatter than my ass, and the foil is negative. It's not underpriced. It is priced.
I think it is priced, and also
it's prime for some dumb reprint.
I don't think it hoses your opponents. Like if you're not winning the turn you cast Demonic Betrayal, they get all their cards back to their graveyard unless you cast it and keep it on board. So I mean, it's not really hosing your opponents.
Time's up. Roast over.
It's not what I said, but okay. Said you cast the permanents, not you cast the spells.
Whoa, buddy!
That go
You don't
back.
get to justify your.
Nope.
argument.
I am justifying
I
it.
didn't get to tell people that Elsha says non-creature, and no one looked it up, so you can't actually cast the Oracle. So,
That's funny.
but I was going to say, though, because I was like, oh, actually, Elsha says you can just cast the rocks from the top of your deck. But then I was like, non-creature.
So, anyways, that was fun. That was a cute little feeding the fish. Something a little bit different. So, anyways, I think that this was a good discussion and a good topic that isn't discussed enough in the community, specifically the financial literacy in cEDH. Like we stated when we started this episode, again, we are not financial advisors and we don't give financial advice. We just share our own thoughts and strategies when it comes to spending money on this game. That being said, we are going to link in the description of this episode channels that are focused purely on financial advice. So that way, if you want that type of resource and you came here to look for it and didn't get it, well, you can go check those guys out if you want that. Specifically, we're going to shout out people like Alpha Investments, Jake and Joel Are Magic, MTG Moxman, and others like them, because those are the channels that'll give you more of that information if you need it. But other than that, I think it's time that we move to the cleanup. Once again, thank you to our high-tier patrons, Usable Object, Cold Ramen, and Geo Justin, respectively. Your guys' support has been amazing, and it helps us to better improve the channel and the content that we make. If you'd also like to become a patron, our Patreon link will be in the description. You can follow us on Twitter so you can be updated with all the latest news, content, and videos that Naus is putting out. We will also link that in the description below. Please join our Discord. We're almost to the 100 member mark on Discord, which is really, really cool for our little community. If you'd like to talk to us about recent episodes, learn about our decks, ask us for advice, or just talk about your day, we'd love to hear it and love to have you there. That link will also be in the description. And finally, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe, leave a comment, drop us a review, or share us with your friends because it really helps with growing our channel and gives us the ability to work with new people and reach new audiences. And with that, I think we'll end this episode. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye,
Peace out.
everyone.
See you, everyone.